Kenny, he is on assignment. And Meredith is basically running the whole show, doing the updates, and helping out. What a day. What a day to react to everything that happened over the weekend. Browns coaching search is in, I can't say first gear. What gear are we talking, Daryl?
Second gear.
Second gear? I don't even know my gears.
We've advanced to round 2. Did you get a round 2 interview? I did not. I did not get a second interview. Little disappointed. I have been cut. I think I could have done a really, really good job. I couldn't do any worse. So, we're on to round 2. Jimmy Schwartz will talk to them today. And, so.
Anybody find it interesting that Kevin Stefanski got hired before the Browns hired their coach?
No, because I kind of figured that absolutely was going to happen.
He's
such a terrible head coach. Thank God we ran that guy out of town. Arthur Blank is grilling steaks for him to seal the deal Saturday night. Yeah.
Well, they pounced. Yeah, they pounced on Stefanski quickly.
He was supposed to talk to the Titans, the Dolphins, and the Ravens a second time. Yeah, is it wrong that there was part of me hoping he landed in Baltimore?
Oh, it would have been great for just the rivalry.
Right. But the Falcons come to Cleveland this year.
They do. They do, and that's what makes it so interesting. Obviously, he'll be in the same division as Baker Mayfield, right? So.
Yep.
Do I have my divisions right?
Yeah, that's a little spicy. Yeah.
They realized since I was a child. So this is fascinating. We're going to be getting into the meat of this entire coaching search, obviously throughout. Nobody better to have on than Daryl Ryder, who is going to be monitoring this. And who knows, maybe we get some news throughout today's broadcast as well, because there are a few things that are kind of holding the Browns search up. We had these wild games from the weekend, and I always try to have takeaways, and anybody who does this for a living, we obviously talk so much Browns, but I think there's so much value in watching the rest of the league and then being able to interpret, what path are we on? How far are we away? And the whole time we talk so much, and it's become the national conversation when it comes to the NFL, is quarterback, quarterback, quarterback. Who are the quarterbacks? Who's your quarterback? If you don't have an elite quarterback, what do you have? Then you need to have a dominant defense. Well, what are we left with for the final 4 teams? Who is the best quarterback right now of these 4 teams? Who would you say, Daryl?
Drake May.
And he was abysmal yesterday. I thought he was terrible.
And they still put the boots to the Texans.
I know.
It also helped that the Texans were pretty awful.
That's one of the themes of the weekend, was just how dominant the defenses were, and just how these defenses come at you in waves. These defensive coordinators are unbelievable, and they seem to be ahead of the offense. Look
at what Seattle did to San Francisco.
Well, I can't remember a year where that seems evident all the way around in the playoffs. Normally it's, hey, it doesn't matter how good your defense is. When you have superhuman quarterbacks, they're just going to be better than the best defenses. Not the case this year. Not the case. And now we've got, Stidham is in for Nix. I thought Nix played the best of any of the quarterbacks this weekend. Seattle didn't ask Sam Darnold to do much. And the reason I bring all of this together, and I want to know from fans, 216-474-0092, how good of a quarterback would the Browns have had to have this year for this Browns loaded, dominant defense to still be playing football right now?
They needed a top 15 quarterback. I think that with this defense, if they had, this is really going to set the world on fire, they would have had Baker Mayfield still.
Whoa, Daryl. A Baker Mayfield reference 5 minutes into our our Monday show following the divisional round.
I know Baker got hurt and he trailed off toward the end of the season. I understand that, but you just needed competent. You needed 2 things this year from the Browns that did not mature at all. You needed competent quarterback play and you needed competent special teams. You had neither, and that's why you won 5 games.
So I agree with all of that. It makes me kind of think maybe the Browns aren't as fine. I know this is a bizarre year. Like we talked about, no Lamar in this tournament. We've got no Joe Burrow, although that's becoming more and more of a common thing.
I mean,
and obviously,
no wonder
Patrick
Josh Allen was in tears after the game.
This was an opportunity.
He knew that this was such an opportunity missed. And we can sit here and talk about the officiating and bellyache over, was that an interception? Should it have been a catch and down by contact? We can do that until we're blue in the face. The bottom line is they turned it over 4 or 5 times in that game. And you can't win in the National Football League with that significant of a negative turnover margin. Like, that's the moral of the story from the weekend. The teams that turned the football over a ton, they lost big. I realize the Bills didn't lose big, but they lost big in the sense of they lost their golden opportunity. No Patrick Mahomes, no, as you mentioned, no Joe Burrow, no Lamar Jackson. Had they advanced, it would have gone through Drake May, but Drake May's only in his second year, right? I mean, it was just there. And I feel for Bills fan this morning because, I mean, it almost feels like the late 80s Browns, right? What's it going to take to finally get over that hump?
Yeah, heartbreak-wise, this is the perfect storm for Buffalo. They've been there before, the whole 90s. A huge percentage of Buffalo fans remember all of that, right? Even though it was a long time ago, there's still a huge percentage, and that's part of the heartbreak and the mythology of what their city's gone through. We used to compare neck and neck, the Bills and the Browns, and, who had it worse. But this was wide open for them. And now their team wasn't great this year. We got to see them like they've had issues, wide receiver. Their offensive line was good. I mean, they may have had the best offensive line, maybe them in Seattle, of any of the teams that have been playing this weekend. But I think about a Buffalo fan. I've many in my life from living in, New York, multiple occasions. A ton of Bills fans. And the stuff I saw from them was scary. Like, you almost have to get a wellness check on them at this point because it is that downtrodden that they can't play. And they feel like they've been totally robbed by the officials.
Yeah.
And obviously we'll get to officials.
But I would just say stop
fumbling
the ball in the middle of the game.
Well, and that's the other thing. The turnovers between the two divisional games, you had, 8 in that game, 6 in the other. You had 14 in the AFC. And so that, again, is how dominant the defenses were. And that's what brings me back to the question is, are the Browns not as far away as we potentially thought? And does what happened here in the playoffs, does it change Andrew Berry's perspective? Does it change Jimmy Haslam's perspective on what kind of quarterback they need to be on the market? We know there's going to be somebody competing with Shadur Sanders this year. Who is that somebody? Is it just Deshaun Watson and they're just going to run that back with Dylan Gabriel in the room? I feel like watching these playoffs, they have to go get a veteran quarterback that can play instantly.
Are you ready for the list? I just looked it up. Scheduled free agents this year: Russell Wilson.
Nope.
Joe Flacco.
Nope.
Tyrod Taylor.
Nope.
Jimmy Garoppolo.
Nope.
Trey Lance.
Probably a no. We just haven't seen.
Carson Wentz.
No.
Teddy Bridgewater.
No.
Gardner Minshew.
I am a Gardner Minshew apologist. I bring him up all the time because he was thrust into an NFL starting role very early without any of those first team reps. And he had a great for where he was. Was he undrafted or was he 6th round? Where he was, I compare Shadur to him a lot. I know, obviously, marketability-wise.
Want to see if Kenny Pickett can survive training camp?
Ooh. Could they reclaim Kenny Pickett?
How about some Zach Wilson? Can I interest you in some Zach Wilson?
No, you cannot.
Did I say Mitchell Trubisky?
No. And I wish you would know.
Can I interest you in some Mitch?
Keep going.
No? Okay. How about Sam Howell? I didn't know he was in the league.
I didn't know either. I think you're just producing names now to see if I can.
I am. AI is a wonderful thing. How about I got a name. Tommy DeVito.
Tommy DeVito. Syracuse's own Tommy DeVito. Isn't he the one with the rep, the agent that
the
looks
former
like
New York Giants backup, right?
Oh my God. Okay, so with all that, none of those
which
names.
Italian diner in the local metropolis of Cleveland, Ohio, does Tommy DeVito, should he become a Browns quarterback, hook up with to be their spokesman?
I think we'd have some fun come Columbus Day and the feast. So, Daryl, all those names, it's pretty much a collective no, which means you have to trade for either, Mac Jones?
C.J. Stroud?
CJ was abysmal yesterday.
He was.
He was horrific. He also didn't have any receivers.
I've given the Houston Texans enough first-round picks, but
He's been a good trade partner in the past.
They've been a great thought partner for the Cleveland Browns. And I think Andrew Berry should pick up a phone. And if it costs you number 26, okay, or 24, I should say, I might consider it.
Well, so you say right now, I can't imagine Houston would bail on Stroud just like that.
Or Anthony, I'm desperate at this point.
You are desperate.
I mean, and he doesn't have the baggage that Deshaun has.
Now, he's due for an extension, right?
He's due. That's the thing. Like
we have all this money tied up.
I know. The great John McClain posted on X last night about how, C.J. Stroud is due that contract extension in the potential $60 million a year range or whatnot. And so I quote posted his comment, and it just the Browns found themselves a few years ago in a similar position, maybe not from a dollar standpoint, but with Baker Mayfield, and they didn't want to invest in Baker for a variety of reasons long term, and it led them to make an impulsive trade for Deshaun Watson, which wrecked the franchise. So proceed with caution, Texans. Like, the grass isn't always greener on the other side, and since the Deshaun Watson trade, Anthony, they have needed 12, because I'm including Deshaun in there. They've needed 12 other quarterbacks, and they're still not through the Deshaun contract.
Well, I hope Joey's paying attention back there. He's the one that churns out, young Joey churns out all the video, and it becomes content, and then we get ripped from coast to coast. We already have our first, should the Browns trade, which pick is it now?
24.
Their 24th overall pick for C.J. Stroud.
I mean, it's worth a conversation, right?
It's unfathomable how bad he's been really in both these playoff games. And, he lit us up. He lit up the Jim Schwartz defense a couple of years ago. That's why Joe Flacco was playing from behind and pressing, because they had a great game plan against us a couple of years ago. I was stunned what Stroud was able to do as a rookie, but he has not gotten better. This is one of the things, I think one of the biggest myths perpetuated today in sports is that we assume guys get better, year to year on this linear track where it just ascends over time. And we have so many examples of the sophomore slump in the NFL. And then in this case, this is year 3.
Yeah, well, CJ's got one more year, 2026, plus the team option for 2027. You could trade for him, pick up that team option. That basically gives him a 2-year audition. That's obviously assuming that Houston's looking at the way he's played in the postseason and, said, hey, we're giving up on him. But again, I would caution the Texans. The grass isn't always greener on the other side.
Yeah, I was thinking Jaden Daniels took a step back in year 2. I mean, I had a list a few years ago of all these QBs, and that's why when people say, well, Shadur is going to get reps and he's going to come in with a different mindset and he's going to be the guy, even though I think he has to compete. I mean, there's no way you could just gift him the starting job next year. And I think
they're not going to.
I don't think so. But what are the options right now? Malik Willis is another name that I bring up. And so I keep watching those games yesterday and looking at the quarterback play, and I'm like, man, C.J. Stroud, I think by the advanced metrics was 12 or 13 by most. And he was
top 15 in the league this year.
But he does not look today like an answer. Like he almost needs to be unplugged and reloaded, reanimated, and go back to the drawing board.
Maybe a change of scenery will do him good. I'm just trying to be optimistic at this point because you're right.
I'm trying to be optimistic. That's why I started the show saying I just watched the AFC, and I watched all the games, but in the AFC is what I'm really hyper-focused on. And our defense fits right in with what I saw, and they could be even better than what I saw yesterday and Saturday and last week. And what kind of quarterback would you like?
All they need is a competent offense that can keep them off the field a little bit longer, and also, too, isn't constantly putting them back on the field with a short field to defend, right? Because you look at this past season for the Browns, and you, myself, and Ken, we would go back and forth all throughout the season, just about this defense and whether or not it was overrated and whatnot. And a lot of the issue was they kept getting put on the field with not a lot of real estate to defend. And so if you just have a little competency, the competent special teams that isn't giving you terrible field position all the time as well, I think that drastically improves your chances of winning. And also, too, these games in which that they were blown out, there were 5 or 6 this year where the Browns were blown out by multiple scores. Like, I think that becomes a lot more competitive as well. They can find an offense, which is quarterback, offensive line, and just take an absolute blowtorch to that wide receiver room and build it, from the ground up again. If they can find a way to do all that this offseason, then Andrew Berry's going to be executive of the year material, and he's going to get a contract extension. Don't let him hire a third.
Okay, it
coach.
sounds like then you disagree with kind of my overarching thesis here that by watching what I watched over the weekend, I actually think we're not as far away with being able to be on the same football field as some of these teams.
Defensively, no, but offensively, Anthony, this thing is a complete rebuild. You have I talked about this yesterday with Coach Riz on my show. You basically have offensively Harold Fannin Jr., Dylan Sampson, and Quinshon Judkins. That's
coming off an injury. Yeah.
Coming off an injury. That's about it. Okay, so that's a lot of work that Andrew Berry has to do in one offseason. I'm trying to be fair to Andrew because there's only so many holes you can fill in an offseason, and I don't have the expectation that he's going to completely rebuild this thing in time for them to become a playoff contender next year.
I'm telling you, though, we talk so much about the offensive line, and you're right, the total overhaul that I think we are in the middle of, because I kind of think GM got caught with his pants down over the last few years, not being able to start to facilitate turnover on that offensive line. And he is still here, so he's going to get another crack to try to do it, to chip away. But I did not see much in the way of good offensive line play anywhere this weekend except maybe Seattle. 216-474-0092. So I want to get your thoughts. Fans of Cleveland on this MLK Day, if you're at home, if you're watching us on YouTube Live, we appreciate each and every one of you, no matter where you are in this country, in this world. If you're watching us today, how far away are the Browns after seeing this weekend? I made the point, I think they might have just needed an average quarterback to get them to this round of the NFL playoffs. We will give you the latest on the coaching search. Everybody seems to want to go offense, but yet defenses ruled the roost over the weekend. Are you dead set? Does it have to be an offensive mind? And why does everybody seem to want the guy with no experience? That's coming up next here on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
92.3 The Fan.
weekend, offense, defense. It was my contention watching these games over the weekend. The defenses way, way ahead of the offenses. And I don't know if it's the coaching, the players, the quarterbacks that are here.
The weather.
The weather, obviously a big factor. Just you saw the snow on the ground. We're watching right now the highlights of that incredible overtime thriller between the Chicago Bears and the Rams. That was an awesome game. Caleb Williams had a play for the ages. It seems like he's pulling this horseshoe assisted whatever out of his on some of the biggest plays of their season. That throw into the end zone, just incredible yesterday. And you said that a week ago, but
how about Ben Johnson walking in there and fixing him, right? Because it felt like his rookie year he was broke, right? And so if you're the Tennessee Titans right now who are looking for a head coach, I think you have to look to the Bears as a little bit of a blueprint of a rookie quarterback who had a rough NFL debut, and you want to pair him with the right coach that's going to get him turned around. What a job Ben Johnson and his staff did with Caleb Williams. You're right. That throw at the end of the game, I mean, it was a Shadur Sanders type of a play where he's just running.
We saw a lot of that, by the way, this weekend. Guys running backwards.
Running backwards away from the line of scrimmage, throws it basically on his back foot, heaves it toward the end zone, and just happened to find his guy. And I
gave his guy a chance, is what he did.
I know, and I'm sitting there in my recliner watching that, and I obviously can't repeat what I said when I saw the play, but I just was like, man, the Bears are just such a charmed team. They're going to win this thing in overtime in advance, and then Caleb Williams had not such a great play. After converting that 4th and 1, he goes off of left guard there instead of doing just straight up, behind the center. He goes off left guard, picks up the first down, converts it, and then just throws a tough pick there. He was expecting his receiver to slide down and make a diving catch, and the defensive back beat him there. And picked it off. And,
was that DJ Moore?
Yeah, and then
it looked like he totally quit on it.
Yeah, and
still, I don't know the likelihood that he completes that, but still didn't help. His receiver just totally bailed on it.
Right, and then the Rams were able to work their way down and to kick the game-winning field goal.
Do you have a problem with them not going for 2 when they had gone for every 4th down? Basically, the last 8 weeks, that's all the Bears do is go for every 4th down.
Well, they did it last night. I think they were like 3 for 5 or 3 for 6 on 4th down. It was just incredible.
But they didn't go for the win with 18 seconds left for 2.
Goals. That's the thing. Like, they had a couple where they could have kicked the field goals, and I understand the field was frozen and there was some snow, and I get that, but they left points on the board in that case. I wonder... This is a new trend in the NFL now, too, in recent years, where they're not taking the 3 points. And I realize that there's no such thing as free points with kickers these days, even though
you got some kickers that can kick it from 70.
Yeah, they're bombing 65-yard kicks with ease. But I wonder if there's going to be a shift back now to taking points on 4th down when you're in field goal range rather than going for – I get when you're in goal-to-go situations. Kevin Stefanski was famous for that, right? How many times did we bicker because Kevin wasn't taking those short field goals when they were in goal-to-go situations on 4th down, and they weren't converting, right? They weren't getting the touchdowns. They weren't able to get, I guess, a penalty to give them a fresh set of downs or anything like that. They'd walk away with no points instead of the 3. And I kind of feel like in 2 of those situations, had Chicago taken the points there,
would they have won the game?
They would have won the game.
That is incredible. I mean, when Stefanski came in, he was kind of riding that wave of, in the analytics community, going for it more and more and more. And the Browns went for it as much as any team really over the 6 years. So
he's real big into analytics. First thing he said after being hired by the New York Football Giants, we're going to beef up the analytics department.
Harbaugh?
Yeah. First thing, because they
have a bit. In Baltimore, they had a pretty robust department. So,
and that's why when Browns fans would go nuts over the analytics, and look, I realize at times I did as well, but most of the time it was sarcasm intended. It does help teams win games, and that was one of the good things that Paul DePodesta did here was he gave the Browns the infrastructure to be able to gather that information, right? It's just sometimes the application is off when you don't have the players available to execute. Going for it on 4th and 2 or going for 2 is all well and good, but when you have a rookie quarterback and rookie receivers and rookie running backs,
you got to take that into consideration.
And you're 7 deep at offensive tackle, you might want to take that into consideration as to whether or not you're going for 2.
I laugh. I think it was ESPN's coverage over the weekend where they had a next-gen real time on any 4th down, whether or not you should go or not. And on the screen, it just would always be go.
Right.
So I don't know how much analytics we even need anymore. They're basically just saying go for every 4th down if it's 2 yards or less.
Well, I'm waiting for AI to take it over, right?
That's kind of seems like what it's done. So Daryl is in for candidate, and I asked a question going to break. Offense or defense, it seems like all these teams just interview so many offensive guys. And I don't know. I used to think that way all the time, and now I'm not so sure. Although, we've had one of the better defensive coordinators in all the NFL running one of the better schemes, and it helps when you have Myles Garrett, the best defensive player in the NFL. But Daryl, they've interviewed, obviously, Schwartz a couple of times, but essentially everybody else is offense.
Well, they want to talk to Jesse Minter.
And Minter, yes.
The Chargers defensive coordinator. And then also, too, Adden Dirty, the Seahawks defensive coordinator. Now, I don't think that they've put in a request for a second interview with him. I mean, you might as well. I mean, you're interviewing everyone else a second time, it feels like. Dan Pitcher, it wouldn't shock me if they put in a request to speak to him a second time. I don't necessarily think
so I figured
he's completely out of it
yet.
I
figured we were done with him.
Tommy Rees, they're done with Tommy Rees, I think. I think Tommy's going to end up in Atlanta with Kevin Stefanski, and they're not going to talk. Mary Kay Cabot actually, I think, reported on Friday that they have no intention of talking to Tommy Rees a second time. So of the 9 that are still technically alive, actually it's 8 because I'm going to cross Tommy Rees off that list. So we're down
Get
to
him out of there.
We're down to the elite 8 of the Browns coaching search, and 3 of those are defensive guys. The other 5, or I should say 4 of those 5 that remain are of the young and upcoming offensive coordinator. The 5th guy, of course, is Ravens OC Todd Monken, who was here back in 2019 under Freddie Kitchens.
Okay, so with all of that said, do you think it has to be an offensive guy?
Yes, because the offense is in shambles right now. You need somebody to put Humpty Dumpty back together.
So that has to come in the form of a head coach. It cannot be an offensive coordinator.
Well, so here's the fun thing about these coaching interviews, right? A lot of times you're not only interviewing for head coach, but you might be interviewing for a coordinator job. Okay? So Todd Monken's really the only experienced offensive coordinator that they've talked to. Everybody else is a young up-and-comer. Now, here's the other issue is Grant Udinski of the Jaguars has the offensive coordinator title. Maybe you bring in Mike McDaniel.
Call the plays.
Yeah, maybe you bring in Mike McDaniel as the offensive coordinator. They're going to interview him this week. That's also part of the compliance with the Rooney Rule because the Browns, there's been some misinformation out there on social media. They have not complied with the Rooney Rule yet. So even with Jim Schwartz interviewing today, they couldn't hire him today. The Giants complied with the Rooney Rule almost immediately so that when John Harbaugh got serious about wanting to talk to teams, they were ready to pounce, and they were allowed to pounce.
By the way, no better time to talk about Rooney Rule and what the Browns are doing than MLK Day. We welcome everybody who's not at work today for MLK Day watching, but it is, you brought up a great point before the show that this could be pretty telling when we will know if the Browns truly have their number one guy.
Yeah, because Rams pass game specialist Nate Schierhaus, who they want to talk to again, he's not available until January 26th after the NFC Championship to talk to him. And he would complete the compliance with the Rooney Rule as well. So be on the lookout this week for a minority candidate coming out of nowhere for an in-person interview. If, in fact, they've got their guy that, they got the eye on the guy they want. I did find it interesting. They did the 3-hour Zoom with Grant Udinski on Saturday, and then Sunday, boom, oh, we want to talk to him again. He might even be today, either today or tomorrow. They're going to talk to Grant Udinski in person as well. He's coming. He's either going to come to town or they got to go to Jacksonville to talk to him. I'd imagine they'd have him fly in. But, I just found it interesting that right away, after talking to him on Saturday, he was one of the first that they wanted to do a second interview with.
Well, people all said he would blow people out of the water when it came to, just picking his brain and talking to him. Everybody raves about that. Now, who knows? Does that translate into being a good head coach in the NFL when you've never had any kind of responsibility to that level? Well, who knows?
Well, I kind of feel like going back to Andrew Berry and some of the things he said, because here's the thing with Andrew Berry that people have to really understand when it comes to the press conferences. Because we went through this with Kevin too, right? They don't really say anything in the press conference. I kind of disagree when it comes to Andrew Berry. If you really pay attention to what he's saying, he speaks in code a lot of times. But like when he talked about Kevin getting fired, he dropped the line, and this was after Jimmy Haslam said, we only won 8 games. That's unacceptable. Had to make a change, right? Then Andrew gets up there, and he says, we just didn't see the progress we needed independent of game results. He told you they fired Kevin because of other reasons not related to winning and losing games. Well, he also said here that they're looking for someone that fits in with their current state of team building, right? Well, current state of team building is offense needs to be rebuilt from the ground up.
Yeah.
And also, too, he also took a victory lap because not many teams interviewed Kevin Stefanski twice, right, back-to-back coaching cycles there, and they hired him, got 6 years and 2 Coach of the Years and 2 playoffs out of him, and I took that as we're looking for our next Sean McVay.
All right, 216-474-0092. Daryl is in for Ken. When we come back, more on the Browns coaching search. Why does it seem like everybody wants the guy who's never done anything like this before? I definitely want to pick your brains when we come back here on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan. Anthony Lima for Van Scoy here, if you're a man or a woman and you're in Northeast.
speaker to play 92.3 The Fan. And now you can find 92.3 The Fan on YouTube, including the Ken Carman Show with Anthony Lima from 6 to 10 a.m., Baskin and Phelps, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., and Afternoon Drive with Nick Wilson and Jonathan Peterlin from 2 to 7 p.m. live each and every weekday on the 92.3 The Fan YouTube channel. Subscribe to our channel for free. One of my favorite four-letter F words, free. Watch all the best content from your favorite shows on The Fan live and on demand now.
I know you're excited about this. Not only do we have Lima Likes at 7:45, Abe Gordon makes a repeat appearance. Back in the day, if you got a repeat appearance like twice in 1 week, on like the late night shows, Johnny Carson, that meant your career was about to take off. I don't know that that's going to be what we're saying about Abe Gordon when he comes on at 8:20, former producer of this show. Ken Carman ran him out of town. He's now in Atlanta working for, I think, our old boss. Is he? Or is he on a competing station?
I think he's on a competing station, and I got a call. How about this? Blast from the past. As soon as Kevin got hired, I heard from Abe, and I think it was like the first time in 3 years that I heard from him. And then he's like, you got a minute to talk about Kevin? And I'm like, yeah, sure. He goes, no, I mean like right now, this second. And I'm like, yeah, sure. I got you. What you want to know? So he called, and we have a little conversation about Kev and how bored out of their mind they're going to be during his press conferences. Because you know what? They just got to coach better.
Well, Abe is going to join us at 8:20 because the Stefanski hire is not going well in some circles in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And I want to delve into that because I've also seen a racial element attached to that. And again, no better place and no better time than on MLK Day with two white guys in the studio to talk about that than right here as we bring on another white guy in Abe Gordon.
There's a meme going around right
I've
now.
Seen a few.
Of Kevin wearing a lot of jewelry, I believe. A lot
blinged
of bling.
out. Yeah.
Blinged out. That's the term I was looking for. Kevin totally blinged out in Falcons gear. You know what's really freaky is the last couple of weeks of the season, I made sure I took pictures of the coordinators and Kevin Stefanski, so we had them for our social media and stuff like that. So just for fun, a couple weeks ago when I was banging the drum for John Harbaugh, just trying to will an interview into existence, I grabbed a John Harbaugh picture and I threw it through AI to have it converted from Ravens gear into Browns gear.
Yeah.
Looks spectacular. So I took one of my Kevin Stefanski photos that I took in Berea and had Kevin changed into Falcons gear. Really freaky how clean it came out. Really, really freaky. Like, I'm zooming in, like looking for pixelation and
see, this is the difference. This is how you know Daryl's professional. While all you perverts are at home doing God knows what on AI to transform the pictures you guys have of either celebrities or people in your life, you weirdos. Daryl is just using it for sports purposes in an ethical way. That's the difference when it comes to Daryl Ryder.
And so I actually put it out there after he got hired. It's got the Falcons backdrop, the Falcons Mike flag, and he's in the Falcons gear. I'm like, this is crazy how clean it looks. But you know what? I'm actually happy for Kevin. I really never had an axe to grind. I did feel like it was time for a change.
Yeah, they were terrible the last 2 years.
You know, people were coming at me on social media because I, said that I was happy for Kevin. Well, you ran him out of town. You were excited for that firing. No, I wasn't excited for the firing. I'm never excited for firings. It's just, it was time. He was here 6 years. I think it had run its course with him and Andrew. And in fact, I thought Andrew should have been shown the door as well. I was very clear about that. And that's nothing personal against Andrew. I just don't think Andrew did a bang-up job the last couple of years either, outside of this past year. Because to me, the previous 3-4 years are why the Browns are in the position that they're in. And you and I are having the conversation this morning about putting this offense back together. The defense was good enough to be able to play this past weekend, and you brought up the spectacular defensive performances throughout the divisional round and why the Browns would have fit seamlessly into this particular playoff picture. But Andrew was pretty derelict when it came to the offensive side of the football.
It's time to move on, and I know we'll get into this later in the show, I also wouldn't be shocked with some of the offensive weapons they have in Atlanta that he hits the ground running to start out. He's got to change some things.
I have a bold prediction. Falcons are going to make the playoffs, and he's going to be coach of the year for the third time.
Come on, Daryl. A third time. You got to be pretty special to win it a third time, right?
You know what? Just saying.
You got to have a very, very – you can't just be like, we turned the Falcons around to a 9-win team in that division. It's got to be really, really good for him to –
It is a regular season award, and Bijan Robinson is a combination of Nick Chubb
awesome.
and Kareem Hunt.
He catches the ball out of the backfield,
you know what?
too.
He helped me take a blowtorch to afternoon drive in the Fantasy Football League this year.
And that was without Kevin Stefanski.
That was without Kevin.
Yeah. Now Kevin's got to leave him on the field.
That was with me coaching the team.
Yeah, he's got to leave him on the field on 2-point conversions, right? This time, like we all understand that. Daryl, I have been flabbergasted, stunned, shocked. Can a jaw be agape or is it mouth agape? I think the mouth is agape.
Jaw on the floor.
The jaw is on the floor and the mouth is agape on some of the polling that I've seen, all the great Browns blogs and podcasts, and, I've kind of scoured. I've done all the market research on this. When people are pressed on how you feel about all these candidates, the one they seem to like the most is the guy that's had the least amount of responsibility and experience. Grant Udinski. You didn't know about him 2 weeks ago.
I thought you were going to say Nate Shieldhouse.
I've seen more on, again, it's so funny how this works.
He basically takes Sean McVay's vision and he computerizes it for him and draws it up for him. and so it's ready to be presented in the team meeting.
And look, I said I would be open-minded because nobody knew, at least the casual fan, people in the league knew. Casual fans didn't know about Mike Tomlin before he got hired. He looked like he had no business with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
John Harbaugh was a special team guy.
John Harbaugh, special teams guy. Obviously had the last name, and people in the coaching community certainly knew that because of his dad and everything. But I cannot believe the favorability I see on this Grant Udinski. He might be the next great thing, but are we only saying this is the guy the Browns have to hire because you haven't seen him fail in any role, because he hasn't had any significant roles of leadership? I mean, he hasn't called the plays. McVay, people keep comparing him in the age and everything to McVay. Right. McVay had called plays and had been an offensive coordinator with all of the responsibility. Right. Not the case here. Very different.
And remember Andrew Berry, when he was hired back from Philadelphia after a year away, I believe Andrew was 32 back in 2020. He was at the time the youngest chief football executive / GM, whatever, in the National Football League. Sure. This was a note that Adam Schefter posted this morning, which I found fascinating because, again, I said last segment, I feel like Barry's looking for his Sean McVay, right? Young, up-and-comer football genius, right? This is from Adam Schefter, and I thought this was pretty telling. At age 39, Rams head coach Sean McVay has now 10 postseason wins. That is double the number of postseason wins of any NFL head coach under the age of 40. We're talking John Madden, John Gruden, Mike Tomlin, and Zach Taylor each had 5 postseason wins before they turned 40. McVay is set to turn 40 on Saturday, a day before the NFC Championship. And look, that to me, that's the guy, right? And the running joke around the NFL, hey, if you've emptied Sean McVay's trash can, if you have gotten him coffee, you are immediately a candidate to be a head coach in the National Football League.
So I understand all of that, and what a valuable guy to be able to spend time with and to learn.
And they stuck with him, by the way. Remember, after winning the Super Bowl, the Rams fell off. They had to go through a little bit of a retool. And they got kicked in the teeth pretty good. And
they didn't have a first. They had one first-round pick in 9 years,
right?
Based on trading them and
right. And so for the folks that were, Andrew Berry didn't have a first-round pick for 3 years. Well, I don't know. Los Angeles Rams don't seem to struggle without them first-round picks. Just saying, back in the NFC Championship game again.
Well, McVay's clearly, if he's not the best coach in the NFL, he's on every list. He has to be 1, 2, or 3.
Yeah.
So, and here he is again. One game away. That game could have gone either way. The Bears had the ball at the 50-yard line.
They did.
In overtime and couldn't pull through. So a little bit of luck involved as well. But I just don't think that necessarily means that everybody under him, is going to work out as a head coach. And I just find it interesting that if it's a coaching. Prospective coaching face-off.
Right.
Udinski versus, start naming them, Todd Monken. Udinski versus, give me another name.
Jesse Minter.
Udinski versus Shieldhouse. Udinski versus Mike McDaniel, who, yes, people are noting is considered a minority candidate, but they had to get him in person to fulfill the requirements. Yes. And we'll get into I have some other Rooney Rule thoughts when we come back. We've got some people on the phone. Vince and Andre, just hang tight. We'll certainly get to you.
And I'll give you who I think my top 3 candidates are.
Yeah, I want to hear that from Daryl. Daryl's top 3 candidates. But in all those face-offs, at least according to the polling that we've seen online, it's Udinski every time. And I'm like, oh, we're just liking him right now because we've never seen him. We don't have a bad note about him. Like, that's the only reason. You think all these other guys have bad notes on them, so for sure they have flaws, and you can't account for a flaw that he had. Well, I'll give you a flaw. He's never done anything like this. He's never had any responsibility. So training wheels mean they're going to be on. You better have a damn good staff. And judging by some of the opinions over the weekend, you might lose Schwartz if he doesn't get the head coaching job. 216-474-0092. Take your thoughts. And Daryl teased it, his top 3 candidates. I'll share some of mine when we return. Plus, Lima like 7:45 here on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan. XTENDAV.com. Extend Technology. know. Nick Wilson teed me up perfectly.
I don't know.
Totally agree with him. That's the reality. When it comes to if the Browns, and some people think that Grant Udinski is in the driver's seat, if I would have told you that halfway through the year, boom, Stefanski's out, you'd go, yay, at least a lot of you. And then if I told you, next head coach, Grant Udinski's never called a play in his life, boo. And now today, fans are clamoring for a guy they had never heard of 3 weeks ago. It is absolutely amazing, but I think it speaks to the psychology of how a lot of this works. Other existing coaches, they all have faults.
Yep.
Other coordinators, you can look at big games and say, yeah, well, that wasn't a good play call. I don't want him to be my head coach.
Wait a minute. You and Ken got all over me on Friday because I was just like, well, I don't know. And I don't have a favorite. I don't have a dog in the fight. Like, you guys, wait a minute. You can't do this right now. This is some serious slippery wizardry that's going on right now. Y'all were all over me on Friday. Oh, 40,000 people are listening to you right now for your opinion. Who's it going to be? Well, I don't know.
By the way, thanks, Ken, for first of all, I've seen the numbers. It's north of that. Come on. We actually have a pretty big show. But yeah, he jumped all over you for that on Friday. Daryl, your rebuttal.
Well, I don't know. Okay, so here's my top three. Here's who I think are going to be the top three. We said this before
candidates. We went to break. Daryl Ryder, who is brought to us each and every week, his appearances on this show by Scheiben Jewelers, Cleveland's premier jewelry store. So you said your top three candidates, are these all guys that have interviewed?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So we do a power rank on this show. Now, we're a little short-staffed today, so the show might not sound like it typically sounds, but we appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in today. So power rank them, Daryl, your Browns coaching candidate list.
These are the three that I expect to be the finalists. I'm going to go with Rams pass game coordinator Nate Schillhouse third.
Again, our fans had never heard of him, unless they're Iowa State fans or Illinois fans, because he played quarterback at Illinois. Scroll
through my X feed. Last week, I posted the video. The ESPN actually did a profile on him, I believe, in November. So I posted that video if you want to get to know just how Nate Schillhouse takes the genius of Mike McVay and prepares it for game day. So or Sean McVay, I should say. He's number three. Dan Pitcher, I'm going to put him number two. I don't think he's out of it by any stretch of the imagination.
Another guy that Browns fans had not ever heard of halfway through the season.
I had James Rapine, our good friend from Bengals Talk, on the show yesterday. I made many a joke about him getting Zach Taylor coffee with cream and sugar, and James did not.
He didn't appreciate that.
Did not appreciate those jokes. But again, Dan Pitcher, I don't think he's out of it. And don't forget that name. And obviously, number one, it's the one that everyone seems to be zeroing in on. He's 30 years old. Jaguars offensive coordinator, Grant Udinski. I think that it's going to be Udinski head coach, Jim Schwartz defensive coordinator, and assistant head coach, because Bubba Ventrone is not going to be here. I think Bubba Ventrone is going to end up Atlanta with Kevin Stefanski, and good for him.
Which is unbelievable. Like, how in the world would Kevin want to tether himself to that? It makes no sense. The guy that he easily could have fired 2 weeks into the season last year.
But Bubba did finally break down and tell us that the reason special teams weren't very good was because of Andrew Berry.
Yeah, players suck.
He's working with what the front office gave him to work with.
All right, you heard Daryl's list, 216-474-0092. I noticed there was a name you did not include on that list, and that is the guy that I think you should take very seriously to be the next head coach of the Browns.
And who might that be?
Because you run the risk of losing him altogether, and that is Jim Schwartz.
They're interviewing him again today. They're taking him seriously. It's very serious. So Friday night, there was a lot of Jim Schwartz asked in Atlanta, is Kevin Stefanski going to be able to put a staff together? What are you talking about? He's been a head coach for 6 years. He's swapped out special teams coordinators. He's swapped out defensive coordinators. He's swapped out offensive coordinators. He's swapped out position coaches. Yeah, I don't think Kevin Stefanski's going to have a hard time putting a staff together down there with the Atlanta Falcons, especially if they're keeping their existing defensive coordinators. So these young guys, when they go through the second interview process, they're going to have to present staffing. Well, Jim Schwartz, keeping him as defensive coordinator solves half the staffing problem, because Schwartz is going to want to keep his staff in place. Now, Ephraim Banda, he has is some interest as a defensive coordinator in a spot or two. But, for the most part, I think the defensive staff can stay in place. So that, I think, is all the more motivation, Anthony, to keep Schwartz in his current role as defensive coordinator.
Daryl, be very interesting, though.
Give him a pay raise. Give him assistant.
The title, all that
give
stuff.
him the assistant head coach title,
but if you interview him twice and he doesn't get the job, and remember, this time around, he finally got another interview.
In, I think, 2020, and he didn't get the job, and 3 years later, he came here to be the defensive coordinator.
I mean, if he makes a passionate plea for this job, and then the Browns go with some 30-year-old dude or what, you know what I mean? It's like, remember, he finally interviewed with somebody else. He interviewed with the Ravens.
Okay, I'm going to turn it around on you. What does Jim Schwartz do to build this offense and turn that whole thing around?
Well, I think
as an accomplished defensive coordinator,
obviously,
what are you going to do? Because your side of the ball is fine, Jim.
I know.
Top 5 defenses a couple of years, great. You turn Myles Garrett from an all-pro and perennial Pro Bowler into a future Hall of Famer.
Well, I've wondered. I think it's a great argument you make, Daryl, because I have
Denzel Ward, they don't even throw to his side of the field.
So half the field's cut off.
Carson Schlesinger is going to be should be the defensive rookie of the year. Grant Delpit has turned into a really good
The trade they made
safety.
midseason was huge.
Yeah, Tyson Campbell coming in here is trading Greg Newsome to Jacksonville for him. Greg, not so much.
They're
great with it.
And he's gotten the most of them. So, but what I'm saying is, I wonder, because if you're Jimmy Haslam and you're Andrew Berry and you're JW and you're sitting in on these,
who's your quarterback coach, Jim?
Well, all of that he's going to have to articulate, but he's also got to be asked, hey,
who's your offensive line coach? Who's your receivers
Daryl,
coach?
You're looking at it a pretty standard way. I'm telling you that why I might like Schwartz is I think Schwartz could tell you, hey, you've game planned against against Josh Allen, right? You've game planned against all these Caleb Williams. Where's Shadur? Where's Shadur rate on that? You see him every day. What would your defense do to Shadur Sanders? I think that's valuable.
Send the house?
I'm just saying. I think just because he's a defensive coordinator, we forget he was a head coach.
Right.
He's been around the game his whole life. He game plans against all these offenses and makes them look pedestrian time and time again. Joe Burrow. He's made Joe Burrow look pedestrian time and time again. By
the way, Jim Schwartz is a head coach, 29 wins and
it wasn't
52
good.
losses.
It wasn't good. So it was also so long ago that I wonder how much of that is applicable.
What was Kevin Stefanski's record with the Browns? And they fired him.
I know.
Again, I'm just playing. I'm not saying that they shouldn't hire Jim. I'm just
and there's not a huge track record of coaches that struggled in their first go around that did really good in their second go around. There just isn't a lot of evidence to support that.
And that's one of the issues here.
All right, I want to go to the phones here. Welcome in. We appreciate everybody that is waiting on hold, that is listening, that is watching on YouTube Live. I want to remind everybody that we have a giveaway, 9 o'clock, John Cougar Mellencamp. What a day. John Cougar Mellencamp at Blossom. You have a chance to win tickets at 9 o'clock. So get ready for that 1 hour and 50 minutes from now. Let's go to Andre in Cleveland. First of all, do you have a favorite right now for the next Browns head coach?
I want a strong head coach. I want somebody with a backbone.
Okay, so who is that? Of the 8 guys remaining, who is it?
They didn't interview Brian Flores. Doesn't seem like they have much interest in him.
Is that due to Schwartz being a defensive coach? He doesn't want to upset Schwartz.
They have interviewed a couple other defensive guys. Adden Dirty from the Seahawks, their defensive coordinator. Jesse Minter, the Chargers defensive coordinator. So, and of course, obviously, Schwartzy. So, they've interviewed a couple of defensive
guys.
guys.
Drop a Schwartzy?
Yeah.
Like he's a baseball player?
May the Schwartz be with you.
Andre, so I get it. I get the sentiment because I think that's one of the things that we wondered about throughout his 6 years, like how strong of a leader, holding guys accountable. I mean, you see it with Mike Vrabel. My God. I mean, to a man, you see Mike Vrabel in the tunnel basically giving love to every single player as they're coming through, and they already swear by that guy, and he's only been there for how many months?
Right. How did we let Vrabel out of the building?
Well, that's
because he wasn't going to stab Kevin in the back.
Okay.
And would he have wanted this job? I mean, they had Drake May over there.
Yeah,
who had a decent. I mean, their
let's just put it
team was
this way.
bad.
Let's just put it this way: Vrabel came in to be a quote-unquote coaching consultant, and he was basically an assistant coach. He coached tight ends during the offseason, and then he ended up having to coach the offensive line during the season. If you're Mike Vrabel, do you really want any part of that circus?
Yeah, Andre,
after having to do that.
Andre, you had a point about the Rooney Rule you wanted to get in.
Maybe I'm late, but could you tell me any candidates that were brought in under the Rooney Rule for interviews?
So you're gonna laugh. You're gonna laugh.
Okay.
I know a lot of people will chuckle. I'm pretty sure that Mike McDaniel qualifies as one of the candidates.
Right.
He does.
Okay.
He does.
Okay.
And right now, Nate Shieldhouse would be the second one. And that's why I said if you keep an eye open for a minority candidate potentially to come out of nowhere and interview this week in person, and that will then tell you the Browns have their guy. They're going to move forward with one of these candidates.
Andre, what a shame that is, right? To like, I know, guys, it's valuable to get the experience, but I think there are a lot of good things about the Rooney Rule, and I think the NFL definitely needed to start giving minorities opportunities.
I agree.
But the downside is the sham interview.
Right. It seems like it's just there to go through the motions. You're just going through the motions.
But
Andre, thank you for the call.
While it is a sham interview, it is also an interview and exposes candidates that used to not be exposed.
Gets them on a radar.
Not just gets them on the radar, but going through the process so that, them being on the radar, they then have gone through it. They know what to expect, and maybe they're able to get a
Remember,
get
it was
a job.
the yearly Turner Gill.
I know.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Though. I actually, maybe it kind of sounds like I'm half joking, but I feel like the Browns of all teams should get special dispensation because I don't think the NFL would look at the Browns as a violator of this edict. I mean, they have had minority.
Eric Bieniemy, like every year, he was getting.
Yeah, he was another one.
He was getting interviews, but
the
nobody would hire him.
The Browns are the one team, like, they've had African American coaches, they've had African American executives. They have also groomed other GMs to go elsewhere, to Minnesota.
They're one of the most diverse organizations
they've had
in
women
the NFL.
On coaching staffs. They've had women in front offices. Like, I feel like the NFL should be like, hey, that's awesome that we want to give opportunities and interviews, and the Browns have never fallen short there. So I feel like special dispensation. Like, I don't think they need to be the team to do the sham interview, is what I'm saying here.
They have been one of the more diverse organizations since the Haslam Sports Group took this franchise over in 2013.
All right, 216-474-0092. We've got you guys on hold. I promise I will get to everybody because I want to hear from the fans. Is it really Grant Udinski? Is that the guy you wanted, the guy you'd never heard of? And I know we have Lima Likes coming up. Folks, we have a gigantic NBA game today at 2:30. The Cavs are 6.5-point dogs. And they're welcoming Oklahoma City, who just lost a game. And so you don't have Darius Garland. You don't have Sam Merrill, right? They're going to be up against it. But I'll tell you why I think they absolutely have a shot to win. Not to mention, the national championship is tonight. When are we going to start acting like it? It's one of the worst nights of the week. You can have a national championship, and they're going to do it again
players
tonight.
that don't even have to go to class.
Yeah, thing of the past. It's not your father's college football. How Indiana is one of the all-time great stories in sports, and I do not think it's hyperbole. That's all straight ahead here on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan. It's Anthony Lima for Fanatics Sportsbook.
YouTube guy?
Can he be
Video extraordinaire?
The fan YouTuber?
video guy Joey?
Or is that me? Am I the fan YouTuber?
I think you're the YouTuber, Daryl, because you're the one who's on there the most. Like, you're the one creating the most content for YouTube. So you are the resident YouTuber of 92.3 The Fan.
And so here...
What genius came up with that idea to put my face on YouTube?
I think you did.
No, I didn't.
We are getting the reaction on X, also provided by Scheiben Jewelers, Cleveland's premier jewelry store. Bot 34953877655 says he isn't worth a washing machine right now. You'd be chasing something he did 2 years ago, hoping to fix him. And that is the nice comment.
Hey, you know what? Call the Maytag repairman then.
Lynn122 says, my God, why is the media this awful? So this year, believe it or not, despite...
Listen, we have reached throw stuff against the wall and hope it sticks.
Well,
we have reached that portion of the program.
It's because I started out the show saying in a more optimistic sense that the Browns defense is as good as all these defenses that are dominating these offenses.
Right.
So you just need average quarterback play might have gotten you to this round. It might have. And you know, people last week were like, could CJ Stroud win the Super Bowl with that defense? And we found out no, because he's been abysmal in the playoffs. You know, since it's gotten worse from him. His rookie year, he came into the league, depending on if you go by the Mike Sando tiers, what the rest of the league thought of him.
Right.
I mean, he's the number 2 overall pick, and he had been a top 12, 13 quarterback his rookie year. This year, by the numbers, again, the same ones that have Shadur way at the bottom, they have him 12 or 13. Now, a year ago, it was not good.
Right.
Like, his entire season was a disaster.
Yeah, I mean, he struggled mightily last season.
And you said you would trade.
He looked, yesterday, he looked like he did last season. And then I threw a grenade out there and said the Browns should give Houston Texans more first-round draft capital for him. Just for fun.
Now, his offensive line got beat up. This is going to sound familiar, Shador fans. His offensive line got beat up. Who were his weapons? He lost Nico Collins.
Listen,
his tight
it's a holiday. Let's have some fun. Let's get nuts.
He also, he had a throw that was so bad in the flat to his tight end that he got his tight end, not in the flat, but he got his tight end injured.
Hospital ball.
Cade Stover. It was a non-contact. That's how bad the throw was. So it was not good for C.J. Stroud, and there's a big debate in Houston whether you pony up because he's due for an extension.
And if you do...
And Daryl wants to trade the second first-round pick for him.
It's the Baker Mayfield conversation that we had here, right? About the contract extension and what that would look like, right? Could you go 36 to 40 million for Baker to keep him here and whatnot? Well, John McClain, the great sports writer in Houston, he had mentioned that, looking at the quarterback landscape, potentially the contract could approach $60 million per year in annual value, which I think would just be bonkers for someone who played last year, I should say, in 2024 the way he did, and then obviously you look at the way he's played in the playoffs, which hasn't been great. Can you commit that kind of money to a player like that? But yeah, I mean, I just having some fun this morning. Why not?
Why seems like Daryl's quickly backtracking.
No, we haven't given the Houston.
Right now.
We've not given the Houston Texans quite enough first round draft capital for quarterbacks.
Keep trading with them. Yeah, why not?
Listen, they've been a good thought partner and a good trade partner, so why not keep that relationship going?
216-474-0092.
In fact, I kind of feel like the Browns should only have to give up one first-round pick for CJ, just as a little bit of a rebate over the Deshaun Watson trade, right? Because not only was it, people forget, it wasn't just 3 first-round picks that went to Houston. It was 6 draft picks total that went to the Houston Texans.
And I saw Mary Kay had her tweet last night where they
didn't cash in.
They had not cashed in, but it's weird, right? Because kind of in the Steelers sense, they make the playoffs.
Which position would you rather be in? Would you rather be in the position the Browns find themselves or the Texans are?
Well, it's the same thing with the Steelers,
right?
Like we've kind of asked that question, but I noticed
last night. At least the Texans can win a playoff game. They can get to the playoffs, and they can win a playoff game. I'd rather be the Houston Texans right now than the Cleveland Browns.
I threw it in there. Crazy to me, the Texans are already in their 9th playoff appearance, all in the last 15 years. 9 playoff appearances. And I get it. The division, wasn't strong. So they were able to get there. We were in the AFC North, a little bit tougher.
And then I threw kerosene on the fire and said that we're not allowed to be pointing out how terrible the Browns are all the time.
Well, so that's 9 playoff appearances in the last 15 years. In the wild card era since 78, that's
Right.
when they initiated the wild card. The Browns have only made the postseason 11 times in 44 seasons.
Well, in the last 30-plus years, the Browns have only played on divisional weekend once, and that was in January of 2021. The beat down in Pittsburgh of the Steelers in the COVID season.
Wow. Yeah. I mean,
to advance the divisional. Think about that. The Browns haven't been relevant.
oh, here comes Daryl. He loves
They
he loves
haven't
this.
been relevant
He wakes up in the morning with this catalog.
in
greatest
over
hits.
3 decades when it comes to divisional round play. If only they would have thrown that flag on the Rashard Higgins
I know.
helmet hit at the goal line, right?
I know.
If only.
Think about how we were thinking about this team then. Let's go back
Remember
to the
Patrick
phones.
Mahomes got hurt in
Yes.
that game and didn't finish the game?
Chad Henne had the run of his life.
Was it the 4th down play? Yeah, the convert. Oh, man. I
He had
just
like
have nightmares
18
about
yards. Vincent in Virginia. We welcome you to the show. Thanks for paying attention. What's up, Vincent?
Good morning. Let me run 2 trade scenarios by
here we
you
go.
all.
that. Oh, we like
down
trade
and dirty.
scenarios. Let's get those trade machines fired up.
Okay, everybody wants to give up on Shadur. He's never really had a real training camp, a real chance. But that's what the Browns do with quarterbacks. That's why we've always.
I think he'll
had
get it this
almost
year,
50.
Vincent. I think he will get it this
Right,
year.
but yeah, I think he'll stay around because the owner wants him for ticket sales for the stadium, and I like Shadur. I think he has potential. But let me give you 2 trades.
Can I pause you for 1 second, though?
Sure.
So Shadur started a couple of home games. That place was half empty, and the half of the fans that actually showed up were there for the visiting team. Shadur was not a ticket draw for the Browns. This
By
past
the way,
season.
that
Well, I'm
surprised
saying
me. That surprised me.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying I think the owner think he is, but let's push that aside. Okay, let's trade Shadur and Jerry Jeudy to the Dolphins for Mika Fitzpatrick and a late round draft pick.
It's like an NBA style trade.
Hang on, how fast can I get that? Can I get that paperwork into the league office?
Because I've already did the research. Jeudy and Mika Fitzpatrick's salaries match.
Yeah, but you don't have to worry about that in the NFL. You don't have to match salaries in the NFL.
Man,
I'm just
Mika's going to
saying,
be 30 next year.
The trade makes sense. It bolsters your defense even more. And
What do we? Wait a second.
And Jeudy goes to Miami as a third.
What do you need? What do you need Minka for on
I
this
think
defense?
Jerry Jeudy would fit in very well down in Miami.
It just
I'm
sounds-
just saying.
Exactly.
Vincent, it just sounds like you're trying to get rid of Jerry Jeudy at all costs.
And I like where he's headed with that thought.
Let's go to Marvin in Cleveland Heights. What's going on, Marvin?
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, welcome in.
I just think we keep giving Shadur a bad rap. Like he was on a whole nother playing field the whole season. He was the 4th guy. He didn't get any reps. And then when he got in there, he had the 32nd worst receiving core and the 32nd
And it
worst
felt
offensive
worse.
line.
It actually felt worse.
And he managed to put up worse statistics than Dylan Gabriel
oh,
did.
come on, Dylan.
Well,
here's
the thing.
Come on, Daryl.
How can you help if you throw the ball in people's hands and it's going right through and it's an interception? Like even
They
when
certainly
he had
did not
time-
help. They did not help his cause, Marvin. Even I would not dispute any of that. His offensive line was abysmal. His receivers terrible, with the exception of Fannin. Fannin did have some drops too, so he's got work on those hands because I don't know where that came from. He did not drop anything in college. So Marvin, I agree with you there.
Who with 32nd worst, dead last offensive line, dead last receivers? Who do you expect to be great in that situation?
You need a miracle worker, right? I mean, that's
give him a chance.
That's
then,
what.
right?
That's what. And I think he will, Marvin. I think he absolutely will have a shot, unless a new coach comes in, and this will be part of the interview process, and he says, "I can't win with that guy." But what I saw out of Shadur was not that.
Yeah.
Shadur, as much as I poked the bear with the fan club, Shadur to me has not been the problem behind the scenes that. That this image that it was going to be a circus every day. And I know he had the mime thing, and he did have the one staged
He does have a film
staged question with the film crew that held up a press conference after a game, which was a little bizarre. But we've seen some bizarre things. Look at the Jacksonville press conference, and people seem to like it.
Right.
People seem to like that with the nice lady, the journalist down there. So with all that said, I do not think it would be the distraction I might have thought it would for them to have a competition, or had we have been talking about drafting a quarterback, which I no longer think that is on the table given the set of circumstances and where they are in the draft. So I think he comes off remarkably likable. He was way more poised at times than I thought, handling the hits that he was taking, standing tall in the pocket at times and delivering the football down the field.
And handling the trap questions.
Yeah. Well, Jeff Shadell's always trying to probe and prod and
You're just trying to start something right now, Lima.
I love Shadell. Why are we not having Jeff Shadell? We play his clips every day. Why are we not having Jeff Shadell on? Either way. So I have to say, handling all that was thrown at him this year, the numbers were terrible. You can't dispute. There's no statistics that show that he's some sure thing and he's going to be a different player. But he'll have an offseason to work. He knows where his weaknesses are. He doesn't have a coaching staff right now that he can work with, but he's got his mechanics seem to improve. But there are a lot of bad numbers for Shadur. There's no doubt. I think he's just got to compete. And the question is, who are you bringing in to compete? Because I do not think it can be Dylan Gabriel and Deshaun Watson.
No. Well, it has to be Deshaun because they have to pay him $46 million and they can't cut him until March of 2027. And then that's a post-June 1 cut so they can divide the rest of the cap. And look, wouldn't shock me if they restructured his contract again to manipulate the salary cap. But the Deshaun thing, I think that it's similar to opening the 21-day practice window for him this past season. Hey, gave you an opportunity to practice for 3 weeks, test out that Achilles, and that we just weren't going to put you in harm's way by putting you on the field this season. You let him go through the offseason program. You give him an honest-to-goodness opportunity to compete for the starting job. But here's the thing, though, Anthony. Just because you give him an opportunity to compete for the job doesn't mean he's going to win the job. Doesn't mean you have to have any intention privately of playing. And by the way, you're like, well, how are they answering the Shadur question? Well, hey, how are they handling the Deshaun question? Because you got to ask 2 questions.
We're still asking Deshaun Watson questions?
I think you do have to ask the Deshaun question in these interviews as well. How would you, as head coach, want to handle the Deshaun Watson situation? Privately, we're going to move on from him. It did not work out. It was an abject failure. But as head coach, how are you going to handle the questions you're going to get from the media? How are you going to handle the practice reps? How are you going to handle maybe training camp and preseason and the prospect of having him compete for this starting job? Yeah, I mean, I think that's just as a relevant question to be asking these coaching candidates as the Shadur Sanders question.
It's fascinating to talk about, and it's the question that's going to be lingering all offseason. And the new head coach of the Browns is going to figure very prominently into the future of Shadur. So he might not control his own destiny, and that's where it gets really interesting. Fairly or unfairly, that's where it does get very interesting. Because we know what the league thought of him coming out.
I don't think Shadur was the least bit sad that Kevin Stefanski lost his job, but Kevin Stefanski might have been his best hope to keeping his job as the starting quarterback. And I think that gets lost in the shuffle as well.
All right, when we come back in Lima Likes, Buffalo fans, you might want to tune out because not only did your quarterback stink, might have cost a gigantic opportunity. It was a legacy game, and he failed in the moment. More on that and how the officials got it right. Not going to be very popular in Buffalo. That's coming up next in Lima Likes here on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan. So, Fanatic Sportsbook. Absolutely another incredible football weekend. The playoffs have been amazing, save for that San Francisco 49ers blowout in which all their backups could not compete with an amazing Seattle team that, again, we barely saw in Cleveland this year. I mean, they're playing at 4 o'clock games and everything. But we got to start out by talking.
Lima no likey.
Josh Allen totally blew it. And I know he's superhuman. I thought he was best quarterback in the NFL all year. He was amazing in the wild card round. He shouldered so much responsibility, putting the Buffalo Bills on his back. But what the hell was that? With no Lamar Jackson, no Patrick Mahomes, no Burrow. You're seeing the quarterbacks in the AFC is going to be now no Bo Nix. Like, this was mapped out. It was wide open for him. What happened? What was with the fumble before the end of the first half? Spotting the Denver Broncos 3 points. The turnovers. How many were there? Just an insane game for Josh Allen. Does this change his...
There were 5 turnovers by the Bills in that game.
Oh, Daryl, does this change the legacy for Josh Allen?
No, but...
He was crying on the podium after the game.
He was. And he's one of the realest athletes you'll find. He's a great guy. But, yeah, that was a massive opportunity that the Bills blew. It was a golden opportunity. They blew it. You turned it over 5 times in a game. I realized the officiating was suspect in some spots. But you know what? Anytime you're counting on the officiating to get it right, you're doing it wrong as a team. So,
well, it's funny you mentioned that, Daryl, because Bills fans, I'm sorry, they got it right.
So obviously I don't have the power to challenge, right? We're in overtime, so the flag is not an option to throw it down. So I called a timeout to try and get the process to slow down because it seemed like the process was not slowing down. It was a rather rapid unfolding of the review.
All right, I get where he's going. That's the head coach of the Buffalo Bills, Sean McDermott. So he's not wrong on that part of it. I don't know why this was done at breakneck speed. It's the fastest review I've ever seen.
Well,
and for a moment it's cost you. But we're talking about the ball that ended up becoming an interception ripped away from Brandon Cooks.
And everyone rushed to defend the NFL for that, saying, well, they got to move these games along.
Not that moment, though. And I know they've got another game that is, supposed to go on right afterwards. They could stall.
Which, by the way, they bumped it back anyway because it went to overtime. They bumped kickoff
that has nothing to do with
8:20. So, yeah, that was time should not have been a factor there. They blew that. I maintain whatever was called on the field through replay would be upheld. If they would have called it if they would have called it a catch and down by contact before the defender pulled the ball away, I think that would have stood on review. In this case, on the field, they called it a catch and the defender, ripped the ball away. Before he had complete control or whatever, made the football move or whatever the heck defines a catch these days.
I've never seen anything like that, though. That was such a... So here's how you know people...
But earlier in the season, I think they called the same play differently.
They did.
And I think that's the issue Bills fans have.
They did. And then yesterday, there was a similar moment with Devontae Adams where he got the ball ripped away from him, but they ruled him down. And it's so funny. This is how you know that people in society are incapable when they are emotionally invested of being able to see another side. This happens in politics every day on my text threads, and it also happens in sports. And everybody, I was at a bar in Tremont. It was like the old days. I finally got out of the house, and everybody was staring at their phone, checking their wagers.
Thanks for the invite, by the way.
Daryl, I forgot you live so close. You could have.
I live close too. Thanks for the invite, Lima.
You guys could have taken scooters or walked over. I feel bad.
We're
now.
like walking distance.
You should feel bad.
You're right over there? I had no idea. Now I feel bad. Either way, it was nice to finally get to watch the games like I used to, and it's just amazing. People were showing me, strangers were showing me their wagers. Everybody bets on the games. Or there's a bunch of Buffalo Bill fans there, which there are a ton in Northeast Ohio. I see the flag. Bay Village. I see Buffalo Bills flags everywhere.
Look at you alienating our audience this morning.
Why? I'm in a modest location of Bay Village, South Central Bay.
Talking about the Bills blowing it.
I know. But either way, I thought they got it right, but people are incapable. Like, that's as bang-bang a play as you will ever see in the NFL or in sports. And people have the pitchforks out to go after the referees in the league office. It's a bang-bang play. How do people not see? I get it if you're a Bills fan, and I get it if you lost money. It's just not going to happen. You're not going to be able to be reasoned with. Now, 2 pass interference plays, and the Bills did not get the same call.
It shouldn't have been a pass interference in the end zone, but it should have been a hold. You could clearly see on the replay the jersey. I can see the jersey being pulled. That is it. That is at worst a holding, which should be a first down.
Well, the second one looked like it was designed almost Joe Flacco moonball to get the penalty. And the thing was, Nix's throws were always on the hands of his guys, so they were given the benefit of the doubt. And meanwhile, Bosa still with the late hit, so there's a 2-yard difference either way. So I do not think the officials ultimately were the decider. I think Josh Allen just had to play better, and he blew it in one of the biggest moments. Then he cried afterwards. Daryl, what are your thoughts on can a quarterback win the Super Bowl if he's crying in a press conference?
Means he cares, so I didn't have a problem with that.
Is he too emotional?
No, I mean, I think that's the emotions of realizing the situation, that blowing the opportunity. Patrick Mahomes, no Lamar Jackson, no Joe Burrow to go through.
Have we ever seen Patrick Mahomes cry?
But he couldn't get through Bo Nix.
Like, I've seen his brother cry. I haven't seen him cry.
You know what? I'm not going to rip the kid for being upset.
Meredith, do you like seeing a brute like Josh Allen be swept into tears?
Yes, of course. I think it's great because I think it shows that he's secure in himself. He's secure in his masculinity. He's not afraid.
He should be.
Honestly, when I was pulling that Sean McDermott clip and I'm watching the video as I'm rolling on it, he looked like he was about to cry. Like, there's some very pregnant pauses in that where he looked like he was trying to hold back tears.
You never know when you're going to get an opportunity like this again.
Next year's never guaranteed, man.
No, especially in that league. And it seemed like Dan Marino thought he'd be getting the Super Bowls every year, and he never got back.
Yeah.
And Joe Burrow, that's another one. He was a AFC Championship game, Super Bowl, the doorstep.
How many times in Cleveland have we had playoff teams not win it all, and we sit here and do shows about how they're going to be back next year, and they're going to be able to win it all next year, and it never materializes. By
the way, Cavs with a big game today. Let's show some love to the Cavs, and what an outstanding 2-game sweep in Philly. That was really impressive. I thought it was going to be without Darius in the second game. I'm like, I can't believe the spread is as close as it is. I go, I think we got no shot because we blew them out. And then what happened? Jalen freaking Tyson.
Lima alive.
13 of 17 for the field. 7 threes out of 9. He was hounding Maxey defensively. Dropped 39 career high. Does this change the trajectory of the Cavs if they got a wing all of a sudden this good?
Well, look, what a find by the Cavaliers with Tyson. However, these are the Jekyll and Hyde Cavs, so it's very hard for me to hop on the bandwagon right now. Now, I realize that I'm on record as saying, hey, this regular season doesn't matter. It's what you do in the playoffs, which is true. But also, too, let's not end up in the play-in tournament. Let's get a top 4 seed in the playoffs. That obviously makes life a little easier for you as you're trying to get back at least past the second round into the conference finals, maybe the NBA finals. But I'm not ready to jump on the Cavs bandwagon just yet and say that they're back, because they tend to follow up these great wins with the loss of the season. Now, I'm not saying today would be the loss of the season.
They got Oklahoma City.
It is the
They're
Thunder.
Big dogs at home.
I'm just saying they've had some really bad losses after some really good wins.
That was a phenomenal game. They shot lights out in both of those games. 50% from 3. Hit 17 in that win. Just an awesome, awesome victory by the Cavs, coming from behind as well. That was spectacular. Quick note.
Live alive.
John Carroll may be looking for a head coach for college football. However, well represented this weekend. You had Josh McDaniels. You had Nick Caley. You had Chris Shula, who coached there. He didn't go there. He coached there. But pretty phenomenal. I used to joke, hey, they have all this football, NFL intellect, but can't beat Mount Union. They beat Mount Union this year.
Yeah, well, that should be on the job, not job description, but on the job advertisement. Hey, you want to coach in the NFL? Well, come coach our football team first.
So good luck, Brian Polian, looking for that next head coach. One final note.
Lima no like.
Somebody's got to explain to me. No one's been able to do it. Our boss tried to. Keith tried to debate me on the phone, and then he just ran away because he was. I think I exhausted him. I think he tapped out, threw in the towel.
Wait, you exhausted someone in a debate? Shocking.
Guys, Monday Night National Championship is just an idiotic idea. It's been idiotic for years. I said they should add it. If they're not going to have it on New Year's Day.
Do this on Friday night.
Friday night, to me, is the night. Now, people say, well, Friday nights, you don't get the same ratings. But Friday works.
Wait, didn't they used to have national championships on Thursday nights?
Well, they had the Ohio State-Miami National Championship was Friday.
Sure. That was a Friday.
That was a Friday, and it delivered a massive rating. The New Year's Eve game against Georgia, massive rating. That was on a Friday. When people don't have school or work and they have a big football game to rally around, they will watch it. Casuals will watch it. When it's on Monday night and if it's a 2-score game in the third quarter, people are like, I got stuff to do. And you're not having watch parties.
I got to go to work tomorrow.
Yeah, you're
Time
not
to
having. No, what are the, unless you're in Miami or Indiana, what are the watch parties you're going to for national championship football? On Friday night, you'd have them.
Have you seen the secondary ticket market? Prices are insane.
We are going to get to this later in the show.
I am interested to see if the stadium is as empty as we saw it for the semifinals.
Ooh, Daryl. I have a thought on that. We'll get to that coming up. We have Abe Gordon at 8:20. Kevin Stefanski hired, already off the market before the Browns even go through their second round of interviews. What does that mean that the league thinks way more of your head coach than people in Cleveland? We'll talk to Abe Gordon at 8:20. Your chance to win John Cougar Mellencamp tickets at Blossom at 9 o'clock. And we'll preview Cavs Thunder all straight ahead and the latest with the Browns coaching search on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan. Ryan Young, Keller. us about the latest in the Browns coaching search after what was a fabulous divisional round weekend of the NFL playoffs. Of course, we aspire to get to that point. When's the last time, Daryl? 2020 we got to the divisional round, and then before that, you have to go all the way back to
January of 1995.
With Belichick.
Bill Belichick got the Browns won a playoff game. I think
beat the Patriots.
Yeah, they beat the Patriots and then lost.
Bill Parcells. Yep. Didn't he beat Bill Parcells?
Yep.
So, Daryl, the latest, Adam Schefter kind of clarified a little bit.
Yeah, the Browns are going to interview Nate Scheelhaase a second time for the head coach opening, but obviously because the Rams won last night, he's not allowed to talk to the Browns until next Monday, which means that if that in fact is the case, right, if they go through these interviews this week and they decide they still want to talk to him, they're not hiring a head coach this week. So we're going to have a week of second-round interviews, but they got to wait till next week to talk to Nate Scheelhaase if they still want him to be a candidate. And so that means the Cleveland Browns will not be hiring a head coach this week. Now, caveat to that is if they talk to all the guys that they're scheduled to talk to this week, that includes Jim Schwartz, who's going to talk to him today for a second time, Grant Udinski, Todd Monken, Mike McDaniel, and Jesse Minter, right? If they go through that whole process, I also think at some point Dan Pitcher is going to get a second interview.
I saw some people getting combative about the Dan Pitcher thing.
Yeah, but listen, I contend he's not bringing Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, and Jamar Chase with him. So I just and he's not calling the plays down there. I don't know about naming guys head coaches who haven't called plays before. I'm not saying they got to come here and call the plays, but at least have that experience of doing it. But unless they go through, unless they decide they want to hire one of these guys this week after going through those interviews, they're probably going to need to have another minority candidate come into the fold here so that they comply with the Rooney Rule in order to be able to go ahead and make that hire by the week's end. So I think we're going to go through the entire week. Still no head coach. We'll go into week 3 of the search, and then next week is when we'll have a new head coach for the Cleveland Browns.
Do you think it's too early to plant your flag with one candidate?
Yeah.
I've seen a bunch of people saying, oh, it's going to be Grant Udinski. And I've seen others say, no, it's going to be Jim Schwartz.
So my working theory right now, and I want to stress this is just my theory, my opinion, I think there's a chance they could double dip here in a big way with these young offensive minds. Because I think Andrew Berry is fascinated and captivated by the younger offensive minds. Here's my theory. You hire Grant Udinski as the head coach. You give Jim Schwartz a pay raise and assistant head coach title along with being defensive coordinator. And because he's the pass game specialist for the Rams, you hire Nate Scheelhaase as your offensive coordinator. And he gets a promotion to come here. And now you get Udinski and Scheelhaase in the fold.
And you keep Schwartz.
And you keep Schwartz. Here's the challenge with that, though. Because both of those guys are thought to be on the upswing, right? They're thought to be future NFL head coaches right there with the Chris Schulas of the world, right there with Jesse Minter, right? I don't know how long you're going to be able to retain both of those guys. I'm just throwing stuff against the wall at this point because, hey, it's round 2 of the coaching search and have a little fun with it. But I think that maybe could be a possibility. But right now it doesn't seem like they're hiring a head coach this week. That's going to happen next week.
Are Browns fans, by and large, right now, are they upset that there's none of the big names? We knew that going into the cycle. We didn't know that Harbaugh would be available.
What big names were available outside of Harbaugh? Mike McDaniel, do you consider him a big name? I mean, I guess you got to give him the respect of he coached the Dolphins there. But, there weren't big names, I don't think, available in this cycle. For me, the big names in this cycle are Jesse Minter, the defensive coordinator for the Chargers. I think he's a big name. Harbaugh, obviously, but
that's amazing that Jesse Minter is considered a big name when in years past we've had now both Harbaughs, we've had Sean Payton, so Mike Vrabel. Like, those to me would be the big names. Jesse Minter doesn't, to me, qualify at that level. It is somebody who's going to get a head coaching job. Like we all understand that. But I just don't think this is anything. This cycle, and maybe it's just bad luck by the Browns that they maybe had done this a year ago. You still got to remember, you got to have candidates want you. Like, I'll tell you right now, I mentioned Chris Shula before. I am putting a bunch of things together. And maybe it's unfair speculation. You tell me.
Right.
But the report was that 7 teams had reached out to try to get an interview with Chris Shula, and there were 5 teams listed, and we had heard that the Browns were one of those teams, and now it just kind of seems like he turned them down.
Right.
That's what it seems like to me. I don't know that for a fact, but I am putting everything together, and you got to remember, teams got to watch you. John Harbaugh clearly turned the Browns down, right?
Yeah. So
I mean, we don't know for a fact that they but how could they not?
Well, they did have phone conversations with him. I know that, but yeah, obviously what we had to offer here in Cleveland was nothing compared to what the New York Giants had to offer, and it seemed like that Harbaugh was coming down to a 3-team race between the Giants, the Titans, and the Falcons, and in order, Giants the preferred destination, followed by the Falcons, and then the Titans. There was that report that he was doing Jackson Dart and Cam Ward film study over a weekend, right? That had popped up. So him landing with the Giants was the least surprise. It was a lesser surprise than Matt Ryan being named whatever he got, president of the Atlanta Falcons or president of football.
I call him the czar.
Whatever title they gave him, right? Shocking. The guy that was reported to be getting that job 2 weeks before he actually got the job. Like, I'm stunned that that's what happened. So, and then Kevin Stefanski ending up in Atlanta also didn't surprise me. I thought Kevin, with Harbaugh going to the Giants, I just figured that Kevin was going to go to the Falcons because I felt like that was the best fit of all these openings, even though the Dolphins, the Ravens, and the Titans wanted to talk to him a second time as well. But Arthur Blank grilled some steaks and didn't let him out of the room.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a sec. Because
isn't that a great story? Arthur Blank
did you like all those details?
Stefanski.
Albert Breer had all those details together. We'll have more on that because I am curious how Browns fans feel.
Would Jimmy Haslam cook steaks for Grant Udinski to seal the deal?
I think he would. You don't think so?
I don't know.
Do they sell any of those at his truck stops? They have good like Hall of Fame Wagyu beef from Joe Thomas.
I kind of feel like maybe Jimmy would offer the beef jerky or something from Pilot.
We will talk to Abe Gordon down in Atlanta, former producer of this show before Ken Carman unceremoniously ran him out of town years ago. It's courageous that he even comes back on this show twice in 2 weeks now.
Well, maybe it's because Ken's not here.
Yes, maybe that's it, because there is that's like when we have Fedor in when Ken's not here. So Abe Gordon will break it down because I'm very curious how Browns fans feel that the league thinks way differently about Kevin Stefanski.
We should have totally booked Fedor to preview the Thunder game today.
It's not too late.
It's the Ken's not here show.
It's not too late. Ray and Euclid, go ahead.
Hey. Happy holiday to you.
What's up?
I'm just saying that I don't like the way the Rooney Rule is established, meaning you mean to tell me that I can go to high school and get a minority coach and say, hey, come for this interview knowing you're not going to get it, and then go ahead and hire the Caucasian coach? No, it's not fair. And I just think the race is playing a big role in everything. Have a good day.
Ray and Euclid, it's interesting you say that, and we welcome Ray to the show on MLK Day, where there is some interesting comments you're going to want to hear from somebody in the Atlanta area. None too happy about Kevin Stefanski, and yes, he mentioned race. You'll hear that for the very first time when we come back. 216-474-0092. We still got your Cavs Thunder preview. We still have your national championship preview. Wait till you see what the tickets. If anybody thought tickets would be going down, they are going up. One of the most expensive college football games in the history of mankind. That's all straight ahead here on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan. It's fan, what a huge sports weekend that actually turns into even better because of today's basketball national title tonight, which I hate that it's tonight, but still awesome for sports fans that you kind of just continue on from what has been a tremendous week. And now down in the South, they normally care a lot more about the national championship than they do about the NFL, but maybe there's a flipping of the script.
Well, the Big Ten has replaced the SEC as the kings of college football.
I know.
If the Indiana Hoosiers can pull this off tonight, back-to-back years for
amazing.
The Big Ten.
Are you rooting for the Big Ten?
I am absolutely rooting for the Hoosiers.
I'm going to tell you why.
I can never root for the Miami Hurricanes.
Well, I'm going to tell
Just
you
on
why.
principle.
I used to think that was loser mentality.
By the way, someone tell Michael Irvin he's not playing for the Hurricanes anymore.
Well, I already have his itinerary in my phone. I know what he was doing last night into today. Anyway,
was he at the White House?
I'm not commenting on that. I think that's beyond the pale, Daryl. But what I will say is this, that I don't think it's as loser mentality as I used to think when I used to call out the SEC fans for all cheering for each other. And I'll tell you why it's different in this case. But we have got to get to the Make It Right Call Kyle Wright hotline and welcome Abe Gordon, former producer of the show, doing big things down in the ATL. Now, before you go, Abe, welcome to the show. We've got to play something for you. Yeah, we have to do this. And you're a frequent guest now. Twice in 2 weeks would never happen on Ken Carman's watch. But we appreciate you coming on to talk about Kevin Stefanski. But we got to play some audio from a gentleman named Isaac Hayes III. What a perfect name. Great name. He is the founder and CEO of something called Fanbase. I don't know anything about this guy, but I heard this audio. And so I said, we've got to confront Abe with this audio. So here it is.
So you're going to tell me that Matt Ryan hired Kevin Stefanski to coach the Atlanta Falcons when in his previous role with Cleveland, he tried to railroad and undermine the career of Shadur Sanders, whose father is a Falcons player, probably the most famous Atlanta Falcons player, maybe next to Mike Vick, and bring him into a city with a predominantly African-American fan base to coach this team.
Abe, your thoughts on MLK Day. How you feeling about Kevin Stefanski? How are they feeling about Kevin Stefanski down there?
Well, you tell me, did Kevin Stefanski railroad and try and end Shador's career? Because that's a lot of conversation down here. And look, I think we all understand the history of this city being a southern city, and it's been some tough times, obviously, and it is a very racial city, and there is a serious percentage of the Atlanta Falcons fan base that is viewing it in that light, that Kevin Stefanski tried to railroad Shadur Sanders. They're going to try and railroad Michael Penix. I don't necessarily see it that way. What do you guys think? Did Kevin Stefanski railroad Shadur?
No, I think that there needs to be more accountability on Shadur's experience and his preparation to get to the NFL level. And then also, too, there's an adaptation that has to occur. I mean, Shadur, to be fair to him, was asked to do, and it's part of the job requirement, you're having to do more as a quarterback in the NFL than you had to do in college. And that is a natural progression. That's a process. There's nothing wrong with it. But look, at the same time, Dillon Gabriel, who I think is an awful quarterback, nice kid, awful quarterback, was further along in that process than Shadur was. But listen, Shadur started more games than Dillon Gabriel did this year, and Shadur ended up winning
he actually got
games.
More opportunity, actually had the easier slate in terms of the defenses he went up against. Look, Abe, it is the central argument that we had all season about how fairly the treatment of the fifth-round pick who came in as a superstar, is a famous, basically a childhood star. That's what people have known him since he was like 9 years old. He started doing videos. So that has always been part of the equation. And we have a ton of fans from all over the country, especially on YouTube now, that came here to get our perspective because they were Shadur first. And now they've kind of adopted the Browns. They hate the media here that have said anything critical of Shadur. They think we all are out to get him. And I've said some harsh things about them as a fan base. Shadur, I like. He seems extremely likable. But I did not ever think it made any sense for the meal ticket of everybody, the front office and the head coach, we thought at the time, was for Shadur to play really well. And then everybody saves their job. And then with that great defense, now we're cooking. But instead, it didn't go that way, and the coach lost his job. So what sense would any of that make? But people are divided on it. I'm going to tell you, like, we have people telling us every day that Kevin Stefanski sabotaged Shadur Sanders.
Yeah, and that's definitely part of the frustration here in Atlanta. And I'll be honest, I was a little bit surprised just how negative the Falcons fan base was in regards to the hire of Kevin Stefanski. And I do think some of the criticisms and the complaints that they have are somewhat fair. I also think there's a large misunderstanding of Kevin Stefanski's power in roster building up in Cleveland and the role he played compared to the role, Andrew Berry, Sashi Brown, Jimmy Haslam, and the like played up there. So there is concern, but like the biggest thing I keep getting thrown down here is we hired a coach that had a worse record over the last 2 years than the coach in Raheem Morris that we just fired. That is the biggest complaint, is that this guy does not win games. And the counter would be let him be given a quality quarterback, which I do not believe you guys had in Cleveland over the past 2 years. And then the counter to that counter would be he had 13 quarterbacks and wasn't able to develop any of them. A lot of people believe Kevin Stefanski is to blame for running Baker Mayfield out of Cleveland. And they look at Deshaun Watson in Houston. They look at Deshaun Watson under Stefanski, and they say, what happened? Who burned this quarterback? And Stefanski's just getting a lot of blame for those things.
Abe Gordon joining us on the Make It Right, Call Kyle Wright hotline. Abe, you mentioned the 13 quarterbacks. I guess my question, and this has been my defense of Kevin, which of those 13 was he supposed to develop that were here? I mean, some of the names on the list are just mind-numbing. But when I look at this Falcons roster and what he inherits, and starting with Bijan Robinson, knowing what he did with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt here in Cleveland, in which the Browns had 3 seasons, 2020, 2021, 2023, where the offense was amongst the best that this franchise has had going back to the mid-'90s. So what's Kevin walking into down there with the Falcons from a talent perspective? Is he getting a roster upgrade than what he had here in Cleveland?
I think offensively there's a roster upgrade, but you still have a question at quarterback here. And look, Michael Penix is not Dorian Thompson-Robinson. I think we all understand that. But he still has some question marks. And we still got to see if he's a franchise quarterback. And that is tough to figure out when he's also dealing with the injury that he's dealing with. And we don't know if he's going to be ready week 1 or not. But at the end of the day, this is a loaded, offensively talented team. You're probably going to end up finding a way to bring back Kyle Pitts, who is second-team All-Pro tight end, along with Drake London, who can be one of the best receivers in the NFL, and Bijan Robinson, as you mentioned, who is, in my opinion, the best running back in the NFL. Your line is not the greatest line ever assembled, but it's not the Chargers line. It's not the Bengals offensive line. It's not a total disaster. It's a line offensively that you can win with. So I do think this team is relatively loaded on offense. You need to add a number 2 receiver, maybe a number 3 as well. But if Kevin Stefanski, for whatever reason, if he can get away from whatever held him down in Cleveland, which I agree is quarterback play, I think you can have success here.
What I think you guys absolutely should go after is if he realistically is bringing Tommy Rees and Bubba Ventrone with the staff. I mean, that makes no sense to me. Those were failing operations last year. And I get it. Talent is going to be talked about. Bubba Ventrone, even on special teams in his press conferences, was acting like talent was the issue, which probably didn't go over very well with Andrew Berry, the GM. But that's something that would be very, very curious to me.
Yeah, the Ventrone one is one that people here in Atlanta are not going to get frustrated by, but I've seen some of the frustration there. We also just went through a special teams coordinator that most of us were asking to be fired early in the season, and at no point did our previous head coach, Raheem Morris, take any of those steps. And so there are some issues on special teams here as well. This was not a team that could cover kickoffs. It was embarrassing, and it cost them games. This is a team that had a serious kicker issue up until late in the year when we ended up finding Zane Gonzalez, who could do the job. So, I think that, look, if we're not going to crush Kevin Stefanski for the offense and the lack of production the past couple of years in Cleveland, I don't know if it's safe to also then crush Tommy Rees. Now, the play calling is its own discussion, right? He handed off play calling to Rees. Is he going to call plays here in Atlanta? If it is Tommy Rees, is Rees going to call plays? There's still a lot that we don't know yet that hasn't been announced yet to be decided. Not many people were overly excited about the potential of Tommy Rees. People are a little bit more excited about Callahan potentially joining as the offensive line coach, although Dwayne Ledford here was very well liked as well. So it'll be interesting to see how much flack he gets for the staff he puts together.
Look, listen, shame on Kevin Stefanski for not developing Case Keenum, Nick Mullins, Jacoby Brissett, P.J. Walker, Jeff Driscoll, Bailey Zappi. Just what an awful job by Kevin here in Cleveland. That being said, he is going to keep the defensive coordinator, Jeff Ulbrich, collaboration here in Cleveland with the Browns. A thing. He had to make coordinator decisions in a collaborative space. It just wasn't all him. Is that the case down there as well? Was he told or encouraged to keep Jeff, or was this strictly a Kevin Stefanski decision?
No, he would have been very strongly encouraged. In fact, Arthur Blank kind of made some comments. It wasn't a prerequisite to the hire, right? I don't think they were going to lose out on their favorite candidate because he didn't want to keep Ulbrich, but people are very happy with what Ulbrich has done this year, and definitely wanted him to be at least in consideration for whomever the new head coach was, now being Kevin Stefanski. And obviously we got the reports Saturday before the official hire that Stefanski would be open to keeping Ulbrich. That certainly would have boosted his chances in the eyes of Matt Ryan and Arthur Blank. So this is something they liked. This is a Falcons defense that out of nowhere set the franchise record for sacks in a season. They had a rookie in James Pierce Jr. come out and nearly get double digits. May have even gotten there by the end of it. So they're very happy with how the defense played under Jeff Ulbrich. I think that's one of the more positive aspects of this coaching hire is that your defense is in place and your defense feels pretty close to being win ready, like ready to go. And now it's just about getting the offense in gear as well.
Abe, do people down in the South care at all about the national championship tonight? Weird thing to ask when you guys used to every year. All those grads in the SEC.
First off, they do, because college football is always going to be huge in Atlanta. It's probably the biggest college football city this country has that's not team dependent. College Football Hall of Fame is located here. Obviously, we have the Peach Bowl and have had a number of national championship games, stuff like that here. So, yes, but it is currently being overshadowed by the Falcons head coaching search and now the hire.
Kevin Stefanski, bigger than college football today down in the South. Amazing, Abe.
Yeah, maybe not in a positive light, but certainly more discussed.
All right, Abe. We appreciate you coming back on despite all the things that Ken has put you through over the years.
Anytime, guys. Appreciate you having me.
All right, Abe Gordon on the hotline. Big in Atlanta radio.
They're gonna have to get used to hearing about how Kevin needs to coach better down in Atlanta.
Man, for a nice fee.
I could do some consulting to help Kevin. I love Kevin. I kid, but there was just only if I had $1 for every time Kevin Stefanski said he had to coach better, I would not be sitting in this chair this morning. I would be laying on a beach in front of my very large and expensive beach home somewhere in a much warmer climate.
All right, a couple things I want to get to from Abe Gordon and what he said from that perspective down in Atlanta. It seems like people not thrilled right now with the Stefanski hire, but why is it that the league thinks very differently about Kevin Stefanski than we do in Cleveland. What are we not getting? Or is it, what are they not getting? We'll discuss that. Plus, national championship tonight. What does it mean if Indiana pulls this off? Cignetti and Mendoza. Is it truly one of the all-time great sports moments? That and all the latest as we continue to get you ready for this Browns coaching search and Cavs Thunder tonight. Actually, today, 2:30 on MLK Day. All straight ahead here on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan. Anthony Lima 4. Mentality. perspective from Atlanta, where Abe Gordon used to be here on 92.3 The Fan, said the Kevin Stefanski news has overshadowed the college football national championship.
By the way, breaking news this morning, Bernie Kosar is at the airport right now heading to Miami to root on the U.
I saw that. I was actually just gonna say it's pretty incredible to see Bernie after all he's been through be able to go. How can I root against Bernie? I'm rooting against Miami. I am rooting for Indiana.
But see, I'm not rooting. See, you're not rooting against Bernie. You're rooting for Indiana. Bernie's not playing tonight.
No.
It's his alma mater that's playing, but Bernie's not playing tonight. You're not rooting against Bernie. We love Bernie, but we're just not rooting for his school.
It's very interesting. We'll get more into the national championship coming up in the 9 o'clock hour because I'll be watching. I wonder how many Ohio State fans are going to be dialed in tonight, and I wonder how many Browns fans, especially because there's an offensive lineman on Miami that you might want to take,
right?
But Mendoza, he's out. They have a center that used to be at Notre Dame that could go third round, I think. So you're not really going to be watching tonight's game that dialed into all of that, I don't think.
Probably
for
should watch
Browns
both
purposes.
Receiving core for both teams.
Always. Boy, Indiana's guys, they catch everything.
I know.
And Mendoza gives them a chance. Like he's the best college back
That's
shoulder.
That's usually the Browns' problem is their receivers don't catch anything.
I know.
So,
and I'm telling you, Mendoza is as good as I've seen in college football with a back shoulder throw. That's one thing. You always wonder what translates. That's instant. That on day one, that guy will be able to make third down throws. And that's why I'm surprised that people are sleeping on his evaluation. We know he's going number one overall.
Yeah,
I think people are sleeping on his evaluation. I don't know. Systems matter. Where you go matters. Coaching matters.
Environment matters. Call all that.
But that's what we're learning. But Mendoza, anytime that he has had the chance to show that he can step up in big moments, he's done it.
A couple months ago, I wasn't sold on Mendoza at all, but the more I watch him, the more I like him. The Raiders aren't giving him up, and even if the Raiders would give him up, they weren't going to be able. The Browns aren't able to outbid the Jets for him because all the first-round picks that the Jets currently have in their back pocket following their fire sale that they had at the trade deadline. But that's Brown's luck. Just when there may be a guy there that you'd want to take in the draft, you're not able to go get him. And you're hoping that you either find someone in the mid-rounds that can help you out or, well, you're not hoping you're in that position next year because that means we have to suffer through another terrible season, which is never out of the realm of the possibility when it comes to the Browns. But you hope that, some way, somehow in 2027 – which is now the draft that all the experts are saying you want to find a quarterback. But I just want to remind fans, don't bank on that, because when we entered the college football season this past season, that's what we were all told. This is going to be the draft. If you need a franchise quarterback, it's okay if you're at the top of the draft because you're going to get one. And then what happened, Anthony? The exact opposite happened, right? Now there's only one guy in this draft that you absolutely have to have, and that would be
the funny thing
Mendoza.
is, we were told last year was not a QB draft, and it might not be. Like, obviously, there's a lot of development that needs to happen with the quarterbacks. But John Harbaugh was lured to New York because of the quarterback, the rookie quarterback, Jackson Dart.
Yeah,
and I don't know if he's going to end up being really good, but man, did he show off some skills in spectacular fashion last year. Also had one of the worst games you'll ever see. I mean, welcome to being a rookie quarterback on bad teams in the NFL. 216-474-1192. Daryl is in for Ken, who's on assignment. The Stefanski thing. One final note. Why do you think that the way the league talks about Kevin Stefanski is way different than we do here? The track record is a track record. 2-time coach of the year, but 2 terrible years. And the worst offenses in the NFL in that span under his leadership. And some stuff that was, I don't want to say simmering, but it definitely seemed like there were some guys didn't exactly love Kevin. That's normally how
Shador?
It was. Well, I don't want to speak for Shadur. but his camp speaks for him a lot.
Well,
and they seem to have problems with Kevin around every turn.
Didn't Shadur say after Kevin was fired something to the effect of stuff happens, right? I mean,
I didn't see a ringing endorsement from Shadur.
He did not seem the least bit brokenhearted that Kevin lost his job, which, again, I think is bad news for Shadur because any of these coaches coming in are not going to be tied to him at all. Look, first of all, the NFL looks at coaches through a completely different lens than fans do. That's number one. Number two, the Browns offensively, in 3 of Kevin's 6 years here, and I'm talking 2020, 2021, and 2023, although I don't think that they were too terrible in 2022, even with the Baker Mayfield injury, they were some of the most successful Browns offenses in the expansion era. Now, I say that understanding the bar is extremely low. I forget the numbers because at some point during the season, like I went through and researched the points per game average or whatever, and like the Browns have only had 4 or 5 seasons since 99, or maybe even 6, where they've been on the plus side of that 20-point margin in a league where 20 points is the standard. Scoring 20 points in a game seems to be the standard in the National Football League. They're almost begging you to at least put 20 on the board. Kevin was able to do that at least 3 times in his tenure here without having a bona fide franchise quarterback. And that's the thing I keep falling back on. Your scheme, is as good as the players you have to run it. You are as good of a coach as your players are as executing what it is you're asking them to. So when we're talking about, 2-point conversion situations or 4th or 3rd downs, any game situation whatsoever, Anthony, and this goes on both sides of the ball, but especially on the offensive side, right? What are you calling that on 3rd and 3 for? Well, I don't know. It probably was a pretty good play call. The players just didn't execute, but it's the coach, because he called it, he's the one that's going to take the criticism from the fans because it did not work.
What's interesting to me is that his operations and organization, in 2020, when a lot of teams suffered during COVID, the Browns were ahead of everybody.
It was crisp.
And then by the end, everything fell apart. It couldn't get lined up. So what's the difference? Same coach. What's the difference?
Well, the difference is, again, I'll go through the names. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, P.J. Walker, Joe Flacco, not once but twice, Jeff Driscoll, Jameis Winston, Bailey Zappi, Dylan Gabriel, Shadur Sanders. Like, you have no consistency at that position. And just look at this last year. And I know, some people think I'm carrying water for Kevin even though he's not here. No, I'm just trying to be objective and fair about the situation. I was in favor of Kevin getting fired. I was in favor of Andrew getting fired. I'm a little disappointed that Andrew stayed because I felt he was as culpable as Kevin, even with the last 8 to 10 months that Andrew had with the roster, did a good job. But the previous 3 and 4 years are why the Browns are where they are right now. It's why the offensive line is in the condition it's in. Andrew Berry's directly responsible for the wide receiver room needing a blowtorch taken to it this offseason because Andrew brought all those guys in. The next wide receiver that Andrew Berry drafts that's worth anything or contributes anything on a consistent basis will be the first. Okay, yes, the Amari Cooper trade was good. You took a 5th-round pick, turned it into 2,000-yard seasons, and a 3rd-round pick. That was a good job by Andrew Berry. But the trade he made with Denver to bring in Jerry Jeudy, not a good trade. You got a 1,000-yard season out of Jerry, but now he's back to being Denver Broncos Jerry Jeudy, which is not a good player and not a player with a good attitude either. So... that's on Andrew Berry. And, and yes, Kevin Stefanski has had input here on some of the players that are brought in, naturally. Usually head coaches do have input. And if Kevin Stefanski really wanted Dylan Gabriel that bad, yeah, that was a bad job out of Kevin Stefanski.
And I just wonder if Browns fans, do they even care? Like, if he ends up doing well, and he's got maybe the best running back in the league now, does it matter? Kyle Pitts had his breakout seasons. They got to figure out his contract and everything. Does it matter to Browns fans if they ascend with Kevin Stefanski?
Grant Udinski better not lose to the Kevin Stefanski and Atlanta Falcons this fall.
Right, it's here, right?
That's all I'm saying.
It's here, right?
Yeah, Falcons come here.
All right, Josh in Berea.
Yeah.
Hey, Daryl. Not practicing this time. I have
So, quick story on Josh. Took the call. while he was actually practicing his take, and so he had to restart because he was practicing his take.
Hey, you know what?
I
appreciate somebody put some work in. Not everybody can handle this, off the top of their head.
Sometimes you just got to put in the work and you got to see if it comes to fruition. Battling Lima all these years, I feel like it's sharpening my debate skills here and
Josh,
there. But,
so what do you think? If Stefanski if the Atlanta Falcons take off under his leadership, and the Browns are going to war with a young upstart head coach who's never called plays before and is learning on the job, will that matter to you?
No, because I don't want to sound like a cynic, but that just seems like that's par for the course as a Browns fan. But I also don't think that Stefanski's going to be as good as everyone says he's going to be because, guys, his best year is 10th in points offensively. His offenses looked the best when he had a healthy Nick Chubb. And we could say, it's about players not executing, but when he had good players, the one that was executing made his job a lot easier. He did have a Baker Mayfield at one point. He did have whatever you feel about Deshaun Watson, and if he's a head case or whatever, we all agree when we got Deshaun Watson, that was a upgrade at the quarterback position, and it did not come into fruition for whatever reasons that may be. You guys may be more privy to information that I'm not aware of, but the guy was given weapons. Two good quarterbacks or decent quarterbacks at the time, and all you got to show for it is one divisional playoff round. And then the last 3 years, bottom of the league, 30th ranked in points per game. Offense was non-existent. Yes, they have the weapons there. Hopefully it turns into something great for Atlanta fans. That is a cool roster. It would be sick to see those guys go off. If you like football, it's fun watching Bijan Robinson run the football, but I don't know. I could see him just coming up short. It's a weird division over there too.
It's an easy division to win.
Wins you the division.
All right, Josh. Hey, I don't know if you rehearsed that call, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah, here's the thing. Okay, so Kevin Stefanski, his first year here, averaged 22.4 points, then 20.9, then 25.5, then 20.5, then 21.2, and then, that can't be right. And then in 2023, it was 23.3. So 4 years that Stefanski is here, they average over 20 points per game. That'd
have been good enough to win a couple of the games yesterday or over the weekend. All right, 216-474-0092. We've got Daryl, writer, Browns beat reporter, in for Ken Carman today. Final hour of the show. Not only do we preview Cavs and Thunder and why I think Cavs absolutely have a shot today, despite the fact they are 6.5-point underdogs to the best team in basketball and the defending champs. How nervous should we be about Darius Garland's injury situation? Some people said it was a sigh of relief when the Cavs came out with their statement yesterday, and national championship tonight, plus the latest in the Browns coaching search. Who is legitimately the leader? That's all straight ahead. Final hour of the show is next here on Sports Radio 92.3. The Fan, plus your chance to win tickets to John Cougar Mellencamp coming up in moments here on The Fan. Real estate market is...
Looking for a winner? Enter the code HOUSE at 923thefan.com before 10 a.m. for your chance to win a pair of lawn tickets to see John Mellencamp Dancing Words Tour, the greatest hits, July 21st at Blossom Music Center as part of the Minuteman Workforce Solutions Concert Series. Tickets on sale this Friday, January 23rd at 10 a.m. at livenation.com. It's all from Live Nation and Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
I don't think I've ever seen a take get skewered in the history of the station like Daryl's take at 6:05 about trading for C.J. Stroud. People are calling the show and you Buckeye honks. They want to know why you'd want to trade with the Texans again and give up any assets, and then you have to pay him. He looked terrible. Terrible in both games.
You know what? I'd
playoffs.
rather he look terrible in a division playoff game than for an entire season.
Well, that's the thing. You know, in 2 of his years, he's been a top 12 to 15 quarterback by the numbers.
Listen, C.J. Stroud is better than any quarterback the Browns have had since Baker Mayfield.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
would you like me to go through the list again?
Not particularly,
No,
Daryl. We're trying to uplift today. We're not trying to be downers.
C.J. Stroud, better quarterback than Case Keenum? Yes or no?
Okay, we're not doing this right now.
C.J. Stroud, better quarterback than Nick Mullins? Yes or no?
I forgot Nick Mullins.
C.J. Stroud, better quarterback than Jacoby Brissett? Yes or no? You got to answer the question, Lima.
Brissett in his best years was probably on par.
C.J. Stroud, better quarterback than Deshaun Watson? Yes or no?
I'm abstaining from that. People know my feelings on Deshaun Watson.
C.J. Stroud, better than Dorian Thompson-Robinson? Yes or no?
Yes.
P.J. Walker?
Yes.
Joe Flacco, not once but twice. Joe Flacco 1.0, Joe Flacco 2.0.
It depended, yeah.
So no for 1.0, but yes to 2.0.
Yeah, right.
That's fair. Jeff Driscoll.
I don't even remember watching that game.
How can you not remember the greatness of Jeff Driscoll?
I think I skipped that game.
Okay. Jameis Winston.
It depends when.
I don't know if C.J. Stroud's more entertaining than Jameis Winston.
No, Stroud looked broke last night. He did.
Bailey Zappi?
He honestly, it looked like a Shador game. It looked like the offensive line was terrible. The receivers,
Stroud
he didn't have any.
Shadur Sanders? Yes or no?
Well, yes, he is better right now than Shadur Sanders, but
then by default he's better than Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah.
So I lost count. I think there's maybe one quarterback on that list that you paused and said that he was not better than. So
he needs to be fixed.
So what was wrong with my take again?
The take is that why you got to sign him to a contract extension.
No, you don't. He's under contract for this year. He's got the team option for 27. You pick up the 27 option immediately. You play out 26, see how it goes, and then you deal with the contract extension next year. You don't have to give him a contract extension when you make the trade. You're under no obligation to do that. And in fact, I would say that's almost fiscally irresponsible. But then someone would argue it's fiscally irresponsible to trade for him anyway. So, but yeah, I don't think that because you make that trade now, depending what you give up. Like if it does cost you a first round pick, then yeah, I mean, I certainly would hear the argument. Hey, you gave up a first round pick. You cannot just have a guy for 2 years. I'll certainly listen to that argument, but I'm just saying from an organizational perspective there, like there's no obligation to give him a contract extension. You trade for him to see if you can fix him and see what you can get out of him. Reevaluate it next year in the offseason, and then decide if you want to give him a contract extension. If not, you could always play out 2027 and then do the franchise tag thing. So you can make the trade without giving him a contract extension, do 2 years of a franchise tag, have him under control for 4 years. If he plays well, you give him a contract extension throughout, in the course of those 4 years, and maybe you don't have to do the franchise tag thing. But there are options at your disposal if that's a route the Texans want to go, and that's a route the Browns want to go.
All right, you've heard it the second time. Did it sound any better?
No, it
from
didn't,
Daryl
but
Ryder?
it is what it is.
216-474-0092. All right, latest in Browns coaching search, because we had a little bit of news and clarification today. And I want to say, Daryl, you have been talking to people. You seem to have some sourcing on this, that the Browns may not be done despite the reports with one particular candidate.
I don't think Dan Pitcher's completely out of this thing yet. I know he hasn't been scheduled for a second interview, but I'll just say this. Keep an eye on that, okay? Remember, we didn't think that Mike McDaniel was going to get a second interview with the Browns, and now he's going to get a second interview. So I'm just saying, just because we haven't heard definitively whether or not Pitcher's gotten a second interview, I wouldn't write him off completely just yet. And that's why... And as I realized I did my rankings earlier, Anthony, I actually kind of want to flip them.
Whoa. You're allowed. You don't have to be inflexible on these things.
I think I would put Pitcher third, Nate Shieldhouse second, and still I think Grant Uditsky in the driver's seat as my favorite to get the job with Jim Schwartz, defensive coordinator, pay raise, assistant head coach, and then I'm going to get really, really super greedy because, this is just how I think. Have Shieldhouse come in and be Udinski's offensive coordinator if the two can get along. But then he's only going to be here for a year or two because I think he is a head coach in the making.
That's a lot. That's a very fluid situation. I'm trying to keep track of all that. My head is spinning. Daryl, not going to lie.
I have 8 theories of how this whole head coaching search can shake out because
I don't think I could see any of the young.
It's not defined.
I don't think I could see any of the young upstart guys coming here unless they're the head coach. Because why would they leave their good situations?
Well, the reason I think Shieldhouse, unless McVay promotes him to offensive coordinator, because it would be a promotion. He's a pass game specialist right now, which is basically he's an assistant coach that does all the, the game plan drawing and whatnot based off, Sean McVay's thoughts and whatnot. But I just think that
Mike LaFleur, right, would have to go somewhere else. I haven't really heard his name.
I haven't really heard his name kind of pop up there. So I don't know. Again, they're probably not hiring a coach this week. This is going to go into the third week. Let's have some fun with it. Let's get nuts.
I appreciate that aspect of it. I want to have some fun. If you would have told me those names at the beginning of the year that we would be firing Kevin Stefanski and the plan would be those 3 names.
And you would have said who?
I would have said who. I think I'm still saying who. I think as of
I get it.
January 19th, because obviously these guys have not accomplished a whole lot on their own.
Right.
They haven't necessarily had the leadership positions.
Well, Udinski, I think, is 30.
Right.
But you know what? Andrew Berry was 32.
It doesn't mean that they can't be good head coaches. Right. We reiterate, obviously.
Sean McVay, I think, was 31 or 32 when the Rams hired him. And I read earlier Adam Schefter put out a great nugget. He's got last night was his 10th playoff win, which is twice as many as any other coach has had before the age of 40. And guys like John Madden and Mike Tomlin on that list who only had 5 playoff victories before their 40th birthday. So, I get the running joke about, hey, if you've emptied his trash or gotten him coffee, out there in Los Angeles.
Get a shot. You get an interview.
You're definitely a head coaching prospect. But, I mean, that staff out there, his staff is always getting poached by teams for coordinators and for head coaches. I mean, he isn't even 40 years old, and he already has a coaching trait.
Yeah. Well, here's what what would you say the 2 best components, the best assistants that we've had as part of the operation under Kevin Stefanski have been what? I would say Jim Schwartz.
I would say Bill Callahan.
Well, Bill Callahan is joining forces, it looks like, with Kevin, right?
Yep.
Down in Atlanta. And Jim Schwartz, there seems to be some question if he doesn't get the head coaching job, would he be here?
Well, he's not going to Atlanta because
he's under contract here,
right? And they're keeping Kevin's going to keep the defensive coordinator down there, Ulrich. So, I think, and I'm not trying to speak for Jim Schwartz. I think Jim likes it here. He was with the Browns. I think he was a scouting assistant under Bill Belichick back in the 90s. Okay? So he's like really, as I'm talking now, I believe he is the only tangible connection to the original Cleveland Browns within that organization. Because the people, I'm pretty sure, none of the alumni people are there anymore as far as, that worked for the team way back in the day. So I think he likes it here. And I think if they say to him, hey, we're going to give you a bump in title, make you the assistant head coach, we're going to give you a bump in pay, and we want to keep you here. I mean, Jimmy Haslam made it pretty clear that he wanted Jim Schwartz to stay in that press conference after they fired Kevin. I think it was on January 6th. But at the end of that press conference, he made it very clear, we want to keep Jim. He's a good coach. Doesn't mean yet, just because Jimmy said that, okay, that's not sworn testimony. You're giving the head coach job to him.
This is quite the tightrope to walk right now for the Browns, because
you want to keep Jim. But if you have to sacrifice Jim to get the coach you want, are you willing to do that?
I mean, I don't want to lose Jim Schwartz at all, but
Here's the other problem.
Real quick, Daryl, I also know that any defense with Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward is probably going to be in pretty good shape. And I know we had defenses with those guys early on, but that was a very different Myles Garrett. He is so much more polished. He's so much
very
better.
Different coordinators, too. Keep that in mind. Here's the other challenge. You're keeping Andrew Berry, right? Berry has spent the last 3 years investing in Jim Schwartz's defensive scheme. Okay? He has, and this is not a criticism. This is a good thing. This is one of the rare times since 1999 where the Browns had stability and they could invest in a side of the football in a scheme that they knew that they were rock solid moving forward with, right? Drafted Mason Graham, Carson Schlesinger, keeping Grant Delpit, Tyson Campbell, who's a man-to-man corner. He was struggling with playing zone down in Jacksonville. You bring in a guy, you know what I'm saying? Because I remember when the trade was made, people were looking at the numbers like, this guy stinks. He can't play. Then he comes here and gets to play.
Look good to me.
He gets to play the way he's accustomed to playing and what he's good at, which is man-to-man. And now all of a sudden, this was a steal of a deal for Andrew Berry, right? And that was one of the many things that Jimmy Haslam pointed out as to why Berry is still employed by the team, was that trade. Also, he found Andre Schmidt. But they have invested so you don't want to give that up and bring in somebody that's going to want to change defensive schemes on you, which means you have to change your personnel. You finally have a side of the ball where there's a core there that is elite. Okay, not just a core. The Browns have had cores before, but they've never had an elite core on a side of the ball like this, right? You could probably argue the 2007 Browns offense, Derek Anderson, Kellen Winslow Jr., Braylon Edwards, but those guys never had any staying power. On the defensive side of the ball, this group has had staying power, and you think maybe you're going to get another year to 3 of staying power out of this core before you have to start shaking some things up. And I think that that's a big consideration here.
All right, 216-474-0092. Even more thoughts on that. Getting down to the nitty-gritty of this coaching search as we have all the latest, the second rounds of interviews. How does the Rooney rule factor into this? Thought Daryl had very interesting things to say earlier in the show. When we come back, we got some good news and some bad news about your Cavaliers, who have a major showdown at home against the best team in basketball. I think they got a shot to win this game, despite the fact they are big-time home dogs. That and the national championship tonight. How big of a story is Indiana going undefeated and winning it all? That's all straight ahead on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
Paramount Plus is the
Feature on the Odyssey app, powered by Integrated Restoration, your local experts in water, fire, and storm disaster restoration.
Well, looky here. Some breaking NFL news this morning. The Buffalo Bills saying bye-bye to head coach Sean McDermott after 9 seasons and plenty of playoff victories, but also heartbreaking playoff defeats. He is out. Many just thought once he survived last week, thanks to Josh Allen, getting them past the wild card round in a big matchup against Jacksonville, they lose in heartbreaking fashion. 8-8 in the playoffs, 98-50 in the regular season. One of the longest active tenured head coaches in the NFL. And McDermott is out, and just like that, the coaching carousel almost has to be put on hold around the league, because this obviously instantly becomes the premier head coaching position that would be available. The question is, it's Harbaugh wish he
waited a few days?
Yeah, wouldn't have signed. Who would the Bills even be after? Would this impact the Browns coaching search at all? Because obviously when it comes to what this could mean for the coordinators, and everybody just kind of has to wait a second.
Yeah, because that's a whole coaching staff up there that potentially could get replaced, because that's usually how this works. When you fire the head coach, you're wiping out your entire coaching staff. Not surprising to me. I had felt all along, and I had been teasing it for about a week now, that there could very well be a 10th head coaching hire this offseason, and my eyes were on Buffalo. If they did not get to the conference championship or even get to the Super Bowl, I had been hearing that McDermott was on the hot seat. In fact, you know, a couple weeks ago when the Browns played the Bills, I was on our sister station up in Buffalo, and they asked me about Kevin Stefanski and whether or not he'd be a good fit for the Bills, because they themselves were anticipating that if the Bills did not advance deep enough into the playoffs, McDermott would be fired. But as you said, 8-8 in the playoffs, Anthony, with a franchise quarterback like Josh Allen. You're coming off a game in which you turned it over 5 times. Yes, officiating was suspect on a couple of the key plays. We can debate, was that a catch? Was that interception? Was he down by contact till we're blue in the face? I have watched that replay a billion times, and you know what? The more I watch it, the more I'm convinced that he didn't have the ball in his hands long enough when he hit the ground, and kudos to the defender for pulling it away. I think they got the call right the more I'm watching it over and over again. But not surprising, Sean McDermott out in Buffalo, fired after 9 seasons.
All right, so obviously a question is for the Browns. Would you be interested in McDermott? Considered a really good leader, like he's kind of seized control in that building. There's been a lot of debate about the roster construction. Obviously, you saw there at the end, their offensive line was very stout. Right. They're losing. They were going to lose their offensive line coach anyway. He was retiring. So the problem has been that defense in recent years, and obviously receivers. I mean, you want to talk about misses in the draft when it comes to that. Either way, do you want McDermott? Is that someone that Browns fans would have any interest in? Again, he's had playoff success, but that's all going to be tethered to at least the way that it's perceived to Josh Allen.
Right.
Like, you don't get Josh Allen, you just get McDermott.
But here's the thing. Yeah, but that's the premise that I have been trying to explain to people about this coaching pool that you and Ken gave me so much grief over not getting behind anyone. And it's because, yeah, the X's and O's are fine. All these guys know that stuff. They're not bringing their quarterbacks with them. And you have to have the quarterback. And the obviously blight for McDermott is he couldn't get Josh Allen to the Super Bowl. That being said, he immediately runs to the top of my list of folks to talk to right now. I think the Browns absolutely need to talk to him.
What a wrench. What a wrench this could potentially throw.
I would be interested in him. I think the Tennessee Titans with Cam Ward, I think they would be interested in him because McDermott's a big reason why Josh Allen has developed into the league MVP that he is. So if you're one of these teams with a young quarterback, you want to talk to McDermott. I think maybe Miami will now all of a sudden have some interest in him. But yes, long story short, if I'm the Cleveland Browns, I am definitely reaching out to Sean McDermott and having a conversation with him. Yes.
Yeah, it looks like the Bills are keeping their GM, Brandon Beane. There was some speculation that that they could clean house, which would be a very, you want to talk about tumultuous time to do it with Josh Allen, at this stage. This is a pretty big NFL story, but obviously we're focused on what it could mean for the Browns.
Well, it has a ripple effect now, too, because of these young candidates that the Browns are talking to, and not just the Browns, but these other teams are talking to a lot of these guys as well, right? The Browns aren't the only interview for Nate Scheelhaus. Same thing with, Grant Udinski and company. So I think that this definitely impacts the Browns coaching search, if not directly, indirectly.
Yeah, now the Browns did, because my memory served me correctly, they interviewed under Jimmy Haslam. They interviewed McDermott way back in 2016, right? When they hired Hugh Jackson. I'm trying to remember, some of these seasons bleed together, but I knew
when
he was
Hugh
defensive
Jackson,
coordinator in Carolina.
Yeah, when they hired Hugh Jackson, though, I mean, the entire building was out on the stairwell.
Yeah.
You got the hero's welcome. The only thing missing was the Pharaoh throne that they carry him into the building on, right? I mean, it was a hero's welcome when they hired Hugh Jackson. I remember that like it was yesterday, and then they couldn't get him out of the building fast enough. Well, they tried not to get him out of the building fast. They were trying to make things good for him after 1-31, and then he just decided he didn't want to play along anymore, and so they had to make that change.
All right, 216-474-0092. Should this stop the Browns in their tracks right now when it comes to their no-name coaching search? That's what it is. A bunch of guys have not really built up their name at the highest levels. It's a bunch of up-and-coming guys that have a lot of appeal around the league, but, the Browns would basically be giving these guys head coaching jobs before they're ready. Doesn't mean they can't be good head coaches. Or do you want a guy who's done it on some of the biggest stages? Remember, they were seconds away from going to the Super Bowl when Josh Allen was unbelievable, but Patrick Mahomes was a little more unbelievable. That's how close Sean McDermott came to coaching in the Super Bowl. Do you want him? He's got 8 playoff wins and sustained success over the course of a decade with the Bills in the AFC.
After getting fired, whose agent's going to get more phone calls within like the first 3 hours? John Harbaugh's, which I think had half the league calling him, or Sean McDermott's now that he's been fired. Because, it's our friend Tom Withers, who you hear on the station filling in, and a longtime Associated Press writer, friend of mine. He posted, McDermott is 98-50 and won at least 10 games in 7 straight seasons. This league is just ridiculous. Yes, Tom, you're correct. This league is just ridiculous. And yes, the Browns better be calling his agent like right now.
Well, don't forget, Daryl, there were teams that hadn't even fired their head coach yet that were reaching out to John Harbaugh.
Yeah.
So there were teams that didn't have a vacancy yet that were calling John Harbaugh and saying, "Hey, what's your interest level?" And we don't know who that is, but we're all fairly certain it was likely the Miami Dolphins.
You know what? I think it's a shame that we don't know who those teams were that were willing to fire their coach to replace them with John Harbaugh. You know what? I think that's a shame. This is information we should have, if anything, than to make their existing head coach feel bad.
Well, here's the other part of this.
I almost got replaced by John Harbaugh. Thank God he went to New York.
Well, this throws such a wrench just in the timing of everything, because it's such a huge shoe to drop that everybody around the league, because of the staffs they're trying to assemble. How many openings now, including this one? We've had New York go off the board. We've had Atlanta go off the board with Stefanski and Harbaugh. So now with a new job opening, are we back at?
By the way,
back at 8?
Good thing Kevin ate the steak and signed Saturday night.
Well, yeah, because Atlanta
might have. I think Atlanta might have pounced on McDermott.
All right, so the question is,
do the Giants? No, the Giants don't. Does John Harbaugh and do the Falcons regret their decision-making processes here right now? With the news that Sean McDermott, who, by the way,
No, I mean, the Giants are pretty thrilled.
No. I'm saying Harbaugh himself.
Yeah.
Because I
you'd
think
want Josh Allen. You would take
Buffalo
Josh
would be
Allen.
a better situation for him. But how about this? 15th all-time and third among active coaches as far as his winning percentage goes. 5 division titles, 2 conference championship game appearances after taking over a team that had missed the playoffs 18 straight years.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible when you consider that, there were so many also-rans. They didn't have a quarterback for so many years. They were kind of churning like the Browns were. Remember, we had a lot of forgettable games with the Bills, except for the weather. The weather was great, meaning, the snow globe games and all that stuff, but they have now had that sustained success.
Phil Dawson knocking off snow from the crossbar.
That is, it's funny. People thought this was going to be a light coaching hiring cycle.
Well, going into it, the thought was,
now
maybe
10 jobs are going to change hands.
The narrative was not the year to hire a head coach, maybe 5 to 6 openings, including the Browns in that. And now you're 10 deep all of a sudden. Almost a third of the league is going to replace their head coaches and coaching staffs this offseason. That is absolutely bananas in what was supposed to be a down year for replacing a head coach.
Yeah, I know. The one I'd keep my eye on is Pittsburgh, too, because if they were willing to talk to Mike McCarthy, I think you'd imagine, even though he's a defensive guy and it was a defensive coordinator.
Yeah, but that's Pittsburgh's history.
Over.
Tomlin was a defensive guy. Chuck Noll was a defensive guy. Keep that. The young defensive guys are the Steelers' thing there. They've had, because they've had 3 head coaches since, was it 1969, something like that? Bill Cowher was a defensive guy, wasn't he?
But I thought he was special teams. But
special teams. But that's
the other part of this is, think about how teams. We always talk about stability, but at what point do you want to try and see if the grass is greener? We've had 3 teams do it now: Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Baltimore. This is a titanic shift.
I still can't believe
in the hierarchy in the AFC.
Of all these coaches that have been fired, I still can't believe Zach Taylor's employed this morning.
Yeah, of all of them. That's a great point.
I'm stunned that Zach Taylor has survived the bloodbath of NFL head coaching. I can't believe it, but he has.
Yeah, huge news. If you're just joining us, Sean McDermott is out after 9 seasons in Buffalo after their agonizing playoff loss over the weekend, where Buffalo fans thought that one was on the officials and on Josh Allen. And the coach is shown the door, but not the GM. So we'll see. Could they be elevating Brady underneath? I see some speculation already at that. Because you can't fire him unless you definitely, in this spot, have the guy, especially because these other teams are all in the middle of their coaching searches.
And you know what? McDermott would be an upgrade from Stefanski.
It's somebody that has leadership qualities. There's time management issues, but I think you say that with every head coach these days.
I think Jim Schwartz would be okay working for Sean McDermott.
Another defensive mind, you think? All right, 216-474-0092. I want to hear from fans. Sean McDermott becomes the latest available head coaching candidate. Could Jimmy Haslam make an offer? He interviewed him in 2016. They never made an offer then. Could this be the time to right the ship in the Cleveland Browns? That's all straight ahead. Final segment. Plus, we preview not only the national championship, but you have Oklahoma City, the defending champs, coming to town today at 2:30. That's all straight ahead. Final segment next on 92.3 The Fan.
All right, Evans here to help you beat the
news and the moves ahead this offseason in free agency as well as the draft. You can listen right here on 92.3 The Fan. Stream us on the Odyssey app and watch every episode live on YouTube. That's The Fan off-season special each and every Tuesday night from 7 to 9 right here on 92.3 The Fan.
All right, so we had big news about 20 minutes ago. Sean McDermott is out, so another opening in Buffalo. Could that leave a cascading effect to the rest of the NFL? Does that put a lot of situations on pause, especially because you have to think about the staff? So many of the interviews that all these teams like the Browns are doing are also a way to start to formulate a staff and try to fit these jigsaw pieces together like a puzzle. And so, if you ask me on first blush, how does this impact the Browns? Well, I imagine they'd want, they interviewed, way back in 2016, McDermott. Is that applicable today? Obviously, Jimmy Haslam was in place, but, you had a lot of other moving parts since then. Is that something that makes sense? And does that matter when it comes to all these young, no-namer guys that are kind of getting their feet wet as part of the interview process?
Yeah.
How does that also play into this? Because obviously we know Buffalo probably has a pretty good idea what they want to do, and they're going to have to go through the Rooney rule as well, just like everybody else. But, if they want to elevate Brady, does that really necessarily impact anything with the Browns?
Yeah, social media reactions from X brought to you by Scheiben Jewelers, Cleveland's premier jewelry store. Your friend Cleve TA with a pretty strong post, and it's pretty accurate. He writes, it's really just hard to justify keeping a defensive-minded head coach who continually makes poor end-of-game decisions in the playoffs when you have Superman at quarterback. It's certainly fair to criticize a defensive head coach that has given up 33, 32, 27, 27, 42, 38, and 22 in their playoff losses. McDermott seems like an excellent leader, but there has to be more here, in my opinion. Again, that is from @CleveTA on X.
Yeah, now obviously Josh Allen didn't put the defense in the best of positions in that last game. In other games, he's right. I mean, the defense totally has let him down. I don't think that was necessarily the biggest issue, in that game over the weekend, which ultimately led to the demise. It is interesting. So if they just win that game and they get any of those calls, or the interception, or the pass interference, if they just win this game, would McDermott have kept his job no matter what?
What if that's why Josh Allen was crying after the game? What if that's why
they knew it was over?
McDermott was all teared up. What if they knew that this? Because here's the thing: it was not a closely kept secret up in Buffalo that McDermott was on the hot seat. I'm telling you, when did the Browns play the Bills? It was in December.
Yeah.
And so I pop on our sister station up there to do a game preview hit with our good friends up in Buffalo. And they asked me about Kevin Stefanski, which I found curious, but they prefaced the question, hey, Sean McDermott, a lot of pressure on him right now to get this Bills team to the Super Bowl this year. If they make a change, what kind of a head coach candidate would Kevin Stefanski make for the Bills? So this I know it's breaking news this morning, Anthony, but I'm not surprised by this. I really felt that going in to this past weekend, if the Bills did not beat the Broncos, McDermott was going to get fired.
I thought so too. Well, I thought it was the week before. If they would have lost the week before, I thought that would have been it.
I figured they had to get to the conference. At worst, they had to get to the conference championship game. And then let's say, I'll hear this. If yesterday's game was the AFC championship game, okay, I know it was a divisional game, but let's say that was the AFC championship game, right? And that's how things unfolded. Maybe you turn around and give them another shot. But I read that post from Cleve TA, which was really, really good, concerning McDermott in the playoffs. By the way, it was December 21st. Browns played the Bills. Not surprised in the least that this happened. It's unfortunate. I understand folks that would say, hey, he resurrected the Bills and they had fallen off for nearly 2 decades and he helped bring them back. Well, let's be honest about it. Josh Allen helped bring them back, right? Because I'm going to tell you right now, whether it's Shadur Sanders, to be fair, Dylan Gabriel, any other quarterback, C.J. Stroud, if the Browns trade for him, just for fun. But any quarterback that the Browns find, whenever that is, okay, whoever is the head coach in which the team is winning consistently and making the playoffs consistently, we're going to sit there and say, such and such coach turned around the Cleveland Browns. We did that with Kevin Stefanski for a couple of years, okay? We're going to say it's the coach, but the reality is...
stabilized things. I mean, he did.
But the reality is it's the quarterback, okay? You can't win without a quarterback. And I realize there are exceptions to the rule, but it's rare. It's very rare. You can look at the Seattle Seahawks. They don't get there without, having a guy who's could be in the conversation, for, maybe offensive player of the year or something like that. I don't know if he's in the MVP conversation. I think that's more Sam Darnold. But it's the quarterback. You can't win. Everyone's discounting the Denver Broncos in the AFC Championship game because Bo Nix is out now. Broke his ankle. So everyone's like, well, okay, Patriots, they just got a free pass to the Super Bowl. Well, why are the Patriots in the spot that they're in? The quarterback. So, Josh Allen was a game changer for the Buffalo Bills. And I don't want to say that McDermott was along for the ride. I will say this. I don't know that Sean McDermott has the same success here in Cleveland that he had in Buffalo. I don't think it's even close.
Let's go to the phones. Jim in Northfield. I asked the Browns fans, are you interested in the latest candidate who was just shown the door in Buffalo and has coached in 16 different playoff games, 8-8 in those games? Jim in Northfield, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. I would call him right now if they haven't already, and I wouldn't leave the building. Here's something you might not know about Sean. He was a college wrestler. He wrestled in the high school nationals as a high schooler. I think he took 6th place. And you don't do that unless you're super athletic, which he wasn't, or you have some serious mental toughness. And that's what this team needs.
There's no doubt, Jim, that one of the things everybody in Buffalo says obviously they had Josh Allen, that helps. But that he is somebody that there's no question about who the leader was, in all those years in Buffalo. And that is something that I think has been in question in Cleveland over the last 6 years.
Yeah, that's the guy I want right now. Call him up.
What? And here's the thing, too. What did players say?
Thank you, Jim.
During locker cleanout, okay? When I wasn't
saying I need my boxes. We have to get to the car.
and I didn't take it like they were firing shots at Kevin Stefanski or kicking Kevin, as he was packing up his office upstairs. But a lot of players talked about, hey, we need someone who's going to hold everyone accountable and improve leadership and things like that. It's also telling that was the answer to that question as well, right?
I think it would, at this time where the Browns are, it would be very interesting. He has to also want the job. And how in demand do we think McDermott is going to be? Is Pittsburgh instantly going to want him?
I think
he could Baltimore?
I think he could end up in Pittsburgh. He's a Pittsburgh guy. The one phrase that I keep coming back to, because again, I said earlier in the show, if I know the jokes are made about the Browns press conferences when Stefanski was here and when Andrew Berry holds him at how he doesn't say anything. If you really pay attention to Andrew when he speaks, he says a lot. And there are a couple of things that Andrew said that I continue to remind myself as this coaching search progresses for them. And one of the comments he made, and I'm paraphrasing here, okay? So don't come at me if I get the specific words wrong. But Andrew said something to the effect of about finding the right coach that fits where they're at in their team building process. And I think that's important, in addition to the other stuff about, hey, we found Kevin. Nobody interviewed Kevin. We hired Kevin. Just reading between those lines, they're looking for their next Sean McVay. They're looking for someone that's going to fit in and be okay with them putting the offense back together, right? And, tweaking the defense as needed, in the next year or two. Like, I keep going back to that, and that's why I keep settling on the guy that ultimately is going to end up here is a young offensive mind, because it's an offensive league. For as good as some of the, the Chris Shulas of the world and whatnot, as good as some of the Jesse Minter, as good as those guys are, okay, as young defensive guys, this is an offensive league. This is a quarterback league. And I keep falling back to team building process, guy that fits here. That, to me, points to they're looking for a young offensive mind. Now, they're doing their due diligence and talking to the defensive guys, but I think when the dust settles, it's going to be an offensive guy.
All right, quickly, national championship tonight. Indiana has a chance to pull off one of the unbelievable seasons in my lifetime and maybe the history of the sport, and you're going to pay a pretty penny to get in, $4,000. Parking passes right around the stadium, also in the thousands of dollars. I'm seeing that right now on the secondary sites. Also, Daryl, we have Cavs, Oklahoma City, the defending champs, without, by the way, Jalen Williams is going to be sidelined with an injury. So
you may or may not see me at Rocket Arena this afternoon. Yeah. We'll see.
Daryl is going to be over there. At least I think, as long as your badge still works when you make your way over there.
As long as they let me in.
Yeah, they're 6.5-point dogs, but after what you just saw against Philly the last two games, I think at least gives you, especially with Jalen Tyson.
Darius is out too. Let's not forget that. Sprained big toe on the other foot, not the one that he hurt last year. But once again, he is he's banged up, and it's unfortunate. But he's already missed 17 games this season too, by the way.
Yeah.
When do fans start giving Darius Garland the Denzel Ward treatment?
I don't know why anybody gives any of these players that treatment. It's not their fault they're missing games. We understand that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Denzel...
Sorry, I'm getting some texts from Buffalo right now.
Okay. Well, we could have more. Stay tuned, because...
There are people that are, in fact, stunned, but believes that, with the new stadium and everything else and the shortened Super Bowl window, it, certainly justifiable why the move was made.
They're on the clock. All right, stay tuned for more Browns coaching search news, NFL coach searching news right here. Keep it locked in all MLK Day here on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.
Hey, sounds.